Chapter 681. W. What? Dual cultivation? Xian Yanqing was stunned, and then his face turned red. What? You don't want to? Then forget it. Let's run away quickly. Lu Ming's body will definitely be taken by that old man. Sigh. Lu Ming sighed. Xian Yanqing bit his lips, and his face turned red. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I agree. You can leave. I leave? No need. You guys start. I'll watch here and help you guard, Dandan said, his eyes rolling. What about the cultivation method? Xian Yanqing said. Cultivation method? What cultivation method? Dandan answered subconsciously. That dual cultivation method. After saying that, Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed. He couldn't help but take a closer look at Dandan. He saw that Dandan's eyes were rolling and his mouth was grinning. He looked like he wanted to laugh but was holding back. Dandan, are you lying to me? You're lying to me, right? Xian Yanqing stared. Ha ha, little beauty, you saw through me. Ha ha, I just wanted to see if you care about Lu Ming. I didn't expect that I would see through you. Dandan finally couldn't hold back and laughed. You cheap turtle, I'm going to eat you. Xian Yanqing's face was red. He bared his teeth and rushed over to grab Dandan. He wanted to bite him. Then he looked at Lu Ming with some worry and said, Is Lu Ming really okay? Don't worry. That old man actually dared to have designs on Lu Ming. He's simply courting death. Moreover, Lu Ming kid can obtain a great fortune. This kid is so lucky that even I am a little envious, Dandan said with a relaxed face. Are you really okay? Xian Yanqing asked. Of course it's fine. It's definitely fine, Dandan said confidently. Then it saw Xian Yanqing gritting his teeth and glaring at it fiercely. Did he just get tricked by Dandan? Xian Yanqing's heartbeat quickened, and her face flushed red. She wished she could find a hole to crawl into when she thought about how she had almost dual cultivated with Lu Ming. I wonder if that guy heard it. I don't think he heard it. At the thought that Lu Ming might have heard it, Xian Yanqing wished he could roast Dandan. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you looking at me like that? I'm doing this for your own good. You know, you'll have to do it sooner or later anyway, so why don't you do it early? Young people like to drag things out. I'm getting anxious. Dandan shouted. Who's going to do that kind of thing with that guy? A ball of flame appeared in Xian Yanqing's hand and enveloped Dandan. Nest, it's killing someone. No, it's killing a turtle. Help! Dandan shouted and retracted its head into the turtle shell. The turtle shell glowed and blocked the flames. At this moment, a great battle was going on in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. How is this possible? Geocentric flowing flame. Your spiritual fire is ignited by the geocentric flowing flame. The seven-colored Taoist screamed in horror. At this moment, the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire was wrapped in a ball of yellow flames. Just now, when the seven-colored Taoist came in, he wanted to extinguish Lu Ming's spiritual fire and replace it, but he had never dreamed that the essence of Lu Ming's spiritual fire was the geocentric flowing flame. The geocentric flowing flame was an extremely powerful flame. It was one of the top flames in the world. Not only did the seven-colored Taoist fail to extinguish Lu Ming's spiritual fire, but he was also surrounded by Lu Ming's spiritual fire. Damn it, damn it! The seven-colored Taoist shouted, and his purple spiritual fire turned into a human form. He waved his hands, and a purple battle sword appeared, trying to break through the encirclement of Lu Ming's spiritual fire. Hoo-hoo, Lu Ming's spiritual fire suddenly changed and turned into a huge nether god. It held a long spear and stabbed at the seven-colored Taoist. This was the nether god transformed by the nether god visualization. Lu Ming was using the nether god visualization at this moment. Bang! The seven-colored Taoist battle sword was defeated, but the long spear didn't stop and stabbed at the seven-colored Taoist's body. The seven-colored Taoist screamed, and his body scattered, turning into a purple flame that floated back and then reformed. Spiritual fire cultivation technique. You actually mastered the spiritual fire cultivation technique. The seven-colored Taoist screamed hysterically, and his voice was filled with endless fear. It seemed that he was even more terrified than when he learned about the geocentric flowing flame. Die! The nether god gave off a terrifying aura as he stepped forward and stabbed with his spear. Run! Run! The seven-colored Taoist turned into a streak of light and ran. Where do you think you're going in my spiritual sea? The next moment, the nether god appeared in front of the seven-colored Taoist and stabbed with his spear. With a poof, the seven-colored Taoist was scattered again and turned into a ball of flame. In Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, he was the master of this place and had complete control over it. How could the seven-colored sage escape? This time, the seven-colored Taoist took a long time to reform the scattered flames. Spare me, young hero, spare me! The seven-colored Taoist started to beg for mercy. You wanted to kill me, and now you want me to spare you? Do you think that's possible? Lu Ming sneered. Young hero, as long as you spare me, I can teach you how to refine pills and inscribe arrays. I can teach you all my experience. The seven-colored Taoist yelled. Hee, I don't feel at ease facing an old monster like you. I'm more at ease facing a dead person. Lu Ming wasn't moved at all and stabbed with his spear. Pung! The flames were scattered again. Then Lu Ming turned into a ball of flame again and surrounded the seven-colored Taoist's purple flames. The seven-colored Taoist screamed. His soul and consciousness were being burned by the geocentric flowing flame and slowly dissipated. No matter how he begged or cursed, Lu Ming wasn't moved. A moment later, the seven-colored Taoist's voice completely disappeared. His consciousness had been completely refined by Lu Ming, and only a ball of pure spiritual fire was left. Hoo-hoo! At this moment, the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire was being refined, and wisps of it floated towards Lu Ming's spiritual lamp. Lu Ming originally only lit 8 yellow spiritual lamps, but now the first 8 continued to burn, and the 9th lamp suddenly emitted a wisp of flame. Although it was only a wisp of flame, it meant that Lu Ming had lit the 9th lamp. A level 3 inscription master had 9 lamps. He was only 1 lamp away from perfection. Moreover, as the geocentric flowing flame continued to refine the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire, the flame of the 9th spiritual lamp began to grow brighter and brighter. It was 108,000 times faster than when he was cultivating. Lu Ming was overjoyed and excited. He could actually refine the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire for his own use and improve his spiritual fire. Chapter 682. Moreover, as the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire was refined and fused into his own spiritual fire, it brought along some scattered fragments. Those were fragments of the seven-colored Taoist experience regarding inscription, alchemy, and inscription arrays. This was the seven-colored Taoist's lifetime experience of cultivating the Tao of inscription. It was slowly fused into Lu Ming's spiritual fire and was grasped by Lu Ming. Lu Ming simply wanted to look up to the sky and laugh. This was an opportunity, a supreme opportunity. After all, Lu Ming had only been cultivating the path of inscription for a short period of time. Although his mental fire was perfect, at every level, he was still inexperienced and inexperienced. Although he had mastered millions of level 1, level 2, and level 3 inscriptions that Dandan had given him, he didn't know how to combine them and how to use them. This was something that had to be slowly explored. This was experience. But now, he had refined the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire and fused with his experience. although these experiences were still scattered. As long as Lu Ming refined more of the seven-colored Taoist spiritual fire, he would definitely gain more and more experience. His knowledge of the Tao of inscription would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Although the true dragon's blood had been burned and dried up by the seven-colored Taoist, it was enough to obtain such an opportunity. To Lu Ming, it was even more precious than a ball of true dragon's blood. At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes. In the sea of consciousness, refining the mental fire was not something that could be done in a short period of time. It was constantly being refined. Lu Ming's mental fire was constantly improving. "Haha, kid, you've struck it big this time, right?" Seeing Lu Ming open his eyes, Dandan laughed. "Yes, I've indeed struck it big." Lu Ming smiled slightly. Xian Yanqing's face was still a little red. She blinked her big eyes and looked at Lu Ming, then looked in other directions as if she didn't dare to look at Lu Ming. "Hey, little Qing, we seem to have other things to do just now. Why don't we continue now?" Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing with a smile and said. Xian Yanqing's face suddenly turned red. She knew that Lu Ming must have heard everything that had happened before. "Continue my ass. A big pervert with a perverted tortoise. You're really jackals of the same tribe." Xian Yanqing gritted her teeth and blushed. She turned her head and didn't look at Lu Ming. "Kid, I've been generous this time, right? Quickly give me some spiritual herbs as a reward." Dandan shouted. Dandan Lin said. Dandan Taoist, Dandan Taoist, Dandan was overjoyed and swallowed them all. Dandan was done. At the sight of this, Xian Yanqing gritted her silver teeth, and her eyes widened to the size of copper bells. There was a raging fire in her eyes as she pounced on Lu Ming with bared fangs and brandished claws. "Let's see if there are any other treasures in the main hall." Lu Ming quickly changed the topic and dashed into the main hall in a flash. After walking around the hall, he found that there was nothing there. It was completely empty. Where were the treasures left behind by the seven-colored Taoist? Where was the storage ring? Why was there nothing? Lu Ming was a little depressed. If he had known, he would have interrogated the seven-colored Taoist and made him tell him where the treasures were hidden before killing him. He walked around and returned to the side of the flood dragon's body. It was a pity that the blood and essence of the flood dragon's body had been burned by the seven-colored Taoist. Otherwise, the flood dragon's blood essence would be a great supplement. He could even refine the blood of a true dragon. This flood dragon's body is full of treasures. Keep it. Lu Ming waved his hand and put the flood dragon's body into a storage ring. Xian Yanqing angrily followed beside Lu Ming. "Little Qing, let's go out." Lu Ming said with a smile. "Humph." Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. He ignored Lu Ming and walked out. Lu Ming smiled and followed her out. When they arrived at the edge of the square, they found that the two were still trapped there. "Little bastard, stop right there. Where's the flood dragon? What's wrong? What treasures did you get? Hand them over." The moment he saw Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, the frost blade spirit shouted, "Idiot, you're really an idiot. I think you've lived for so long in vain. In this situation, instead of kneeling and begging me, you're actually threatening me." Lu Ming shook his head and said contemptuously, "Little bastard, what did you say?" The frost blade spirit shouted angrily. Lu Ming shook his head. He could not be bothered to talk nonsense. He exchanged thousands of spirit crystals around the array to increase the power of the array. "You two, enjoy yourselves here." Lu Ming waved his hand and swaggered away with Xian Yanqing. Behind them, only the roars of the frost blade spirit and old monster Hong Qi could be heard. "Dandan, that form-shifting talisman of yours is quite useful. Make a few more when you're free. On the way, Lu Ming looked at Dandan expectantly. Okay, give me the materials. Form connecting jade. Dandan stretched out a claw. Form connecting jade. What form connecting jade? Lu Ming was stunned. Nonsense. Of course it's the materials. Without form connecting jade, how can I make a talisman? I don't think you have it either. I found the previous few when I saw you cleaning other people's storage rings. That's why I made a few form-shifting talismans. Dandan curled its lips. Lu Ming remembered that Dandan had indeed coaxed and pestered him once and took away a piece of jade from him. Initially, he had thought that it was an ordinary jade. He did not expect it to be a form-forming jade. Lu Ming, let me tell you, form-connecting jade is very rare. With my current strength, it can only be used in a 6th-level inscription array. The array set by the 7-colored spiritual master is only as powerful as a 6th-level inscription array after so many years. That's why it can be used. So don't think you can use form-shifting talismans to walk in various arrays. It's unrealistic. Dandan said mercilessly. Lu Ming was depressed. He did have the idea to let Dandan make a pile of form-shifting talismans. Then he wouldn't be afraid of any arrays in the future. It seemed that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. The two of them and the tortoise followed the original path and got out of the area that was full of inscription formations without any danger. Let's go to other places to search for spiritual herbs. Lu Ming said. Next, they chose another direction and went to look for spiritual herbs. Although the Rainbow Island was big, it was still limited. This place had already been searched. In the next 3 days, although the two of them had some gains, they didn't gain much. However, Lu Ming's spiritual fire had undergone earth-shattering changes. His spirit fire was increasing at a crazy rate with every passing moment. In just 3 days, not only did he ignite 10 spiritual lamps at the 3rd level, but he also stepped into the range of a 4th-level inscriptionist. Now, he had already ignited 8 green spiritual lamps. A 4th-level inscriptionist and 8 green spiritual lamps. In just 3 days, Lu Ming's spiritual fire had increased by a whole realm. Chapter 683. The 7-colored spiritual master was a level 7 true inscription master. At every level, he would ignite at least 6 spirit lamps. How large was his spirit fire? Although Lu Ming ignited 10 spirit lamps at every level, he was only a level 3 inscription master before. The difference between him and a level 7 inscription master was too great. In comparison, the difference between a martial grandmaster realm practitioner and a spirit embryo realm practitioner was like heaven and earth. It was unknown how far they were apart. Therefore, the 7-colored spiritual master spirit fire was still rapidly increasing Lu Ming's spirit fire. Moreover, it contained fragments of the 7-colored spiritual master's experience. Lu Ming's experience in alchemy and inscription formations was becoming more and more abundant. Hey, look, there's another palace ahead. Xia Nianqing suddenly pointed ahead and said in surprise. Lu Ming looked over. Indeed, there was a mountain range ahead. On one of the mountain peaks, there was another palace. Could it be that the 7-colored spiritual master cultivated in more than one palace? Could it be that all his treasures are hidden in the palace ahead? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Obviously, Xia Nianqing also had the same guess. Kill, 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 and take all the treasures. Dandan shouted. Shua, shua. Lu Ming turned into 2 streaks of light and flew over. But not long after, they stopped. In front, there were 2 streaks of light, one in front and one behind, rushing over. In front was a golden sword light. In the sword light was a young man in his 20s. He was extremely handsome and emitted a powerful aura. Obviously, This young man was being chased by a streak of light from behind. The streak of light behind him was an old man, Frost Blade Spirit Practitioner. Seeing the old man behind him, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing were shocked. The person chasing after them was actually a Frost Blade Spirit Cultivator. But wasn't he trapped in the great formation of the plaza from before? He had actually escaped and appeared here. However, judging from his aura, he should have been severely injured and was far from his peak. He was at most at the second level of the spiritual sea realm. Kid, hand over the treasures, and I'll spare your life. Frostblade roared. However, the young man didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to him. He flew past Lu Ming and the others at an extremely fast speed. The Han Dao spirit warrior chased after them relentlessly. He glanced at Lu Ming and was stunned for a moment. Then he roared, "Little bastards, it's you! You deserve to die!" With a furious roar, Frostblade Spiritual Practitioner actually stopped chasing after the young man. Instead, he pounced on Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing with a venomous look in his eyes. From this, it could be seen how much he hated Lu Ming directly abandoning that young man. Lu Ming's expression turned solemn as the infinite dragon spear appeared in his hand. Sky Demon Force Field. Xian Yinqing stretched out his hand and pressed down. An enormous heavenly demon force field enveloped Frostblade Spirit Master. However, the Frostblade Spirit Master was truly powerful. Although he was injured, his true yuan was still incomparably powerful. His true yuan burst forth, breaking through the heavenly demon force field and charging towards Lu Ming. Destruction cut. Xian Yinqing roared again. The heavenly demon force field burst forth with the power of destruction cut. Streaks of terrifying cutting power seemed to be able to cut through space. Frostblade Spirit Master roared angrily. His entire body was covered in white ice like a suit of ice armor. His figure continued to charge forward. Kill! Lu Ming rushed into the heavenly demon force field with the infinite dragon spear in hand. The spear light pierced towards Frostblade Spirit Master's throat. Lu Ming was not affected in the slightest by the heavenly demon force field. It was as if he was outside. The heavenly demon force field was completely under Xian Yinqing's control. Clang! Frostblade Spirit Master slashed out, blocking Lu Ming's spear. Lu Ming's body trembled as he retreated. Frostblade Spirit Master's realm was too high. Even if he was injured, his battle strength was still terrifying. Little bastards, die. Today, you will die. Frostblade Spirit Master's eyes were filled with murderous intent. 3 days ago, he and old monster Hongqi were trapped in that big formation. They were trapped for half a day and almost died in there. Fortunately, there were other people who had also reached there. With the help of others, they were able to get out of danger. Although they escaped, they were severely injured. Even now, they were still far from recovering. His hatred for Lu Ming and old monster Hongqi was unimaginable. Boom, boom. The 9 dragons' bloodline and the second bloodline erupted at the same time. Lu Ming's battle strength increased greatly. 9th grade king class. Both bloodlines are 9th grade king class. Frostblade Spirit Master cried out in disbelief. He was almost scared to death. When activating one's bloodline, it was inevitable that the rank of one's bloodline would be exposed. It was simply unbelievable that both bloodlines were 9th grade king class. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. After activating his bloodline, his battle strength increased. He charged towards Frostblade Spirit Master again. Frostblade Spirit Master wanted to kill him. How could he not want to kill Frostblade Spirit Master? Otherwise, It would be terrible to be targeted by such a despicable old monster. Who knew if the old monster would do something behind his back? Die. This kid is too terrifying. He must die. Frost Blade Spirit Master was even more determined to kill Lu Ming. His blade light flashed as he battled with Lu Ming. However, he was greatly affected by the heavenly demon power field. For a moment, it would not be easy to defeat Lu Ming. I'll smash. Dandin shrank back into its shell and suddenly smashed towards Frostblade, Spirit Master's face. However, Sea of Soul Realm martial artists who had comprehended Level 2 intent could already control the heaven and earth elements to form battle armor to cover their whole body. Dandin rushed over, but it only smashed into the ice armor covering Frostblade Spirit Master's face. Nest, I haven't recovered enough. Otherwise, I would have smashed through that old man's ice layer. Dandin flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder and muttered, looking for a chance to sneak attack. Xiao! Right at this moment, a golden sword light flew over. It was the golden-robed youth from before. He had actually returned. Before he arrived, a golden sword chi with incomparable sharpness cut through the void and slashed towards Frostblade Spirit Master. Kid, come and die with me. Frostblade Spirit Master roared and waved his blade to block the sword chi. Shwa! The golden-robed youth appeared in the air and glanced around. Finally, his gaze landed on Lu Ming, and he said, Shura? Hell King? Lu Ming said. He could tell from the aura that this person was Hell King, and Hell King obviously recognized him as well. How about working together? Let's kill this old man. Hell King said. That's exactly what I want. A smile emerged on Lu Ming's face. Hell King's battle strength was terrifying. With him, they could fight the injured Frostblade Spirit Master. Golden Radiance sword. Hell King was very straightforward and directly attacked. The dazzling golden sword chi emitted an incomparable sharpness that seemed to be able to cut through everything. Hell King had comprehended the metal intent and had already reached Level 2. The metal intent was known for its sharpness and sharpness. Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon Force field naturally didn't hinder Hell King at all. At the same time, Lu Ming also appeared. He stabbed out with his long spear, and a tricolor dragon flew out, pouncing towards Frostblade Spirit Master. Facing the attacks of the three people, Frostblade Spirit Warrior slashed out saber lights one after another. Chapter 684. Then the spear light, sword light, and saber light clashed again. Whoosh, whoosh, sword chi and saber chi shot out in all directions. One could see with the naked eye that there were cracks in the space nearby. Frost Blade Spirit was injured and suppressed by the Sky Demon Force field, while Lu Ming and Hades were able to fight to their heart's content. The battle between the four was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. Rumble! At this moment, the world suddenly shook. The four of them could feel the Rainbow Island shaking violently in the air. The shaking was getting more and more intense. Oh no, the Rainbow Island is going to return to the void. Let's go! A martial artist shouted in the distance. How do we leave? Fly to the sky. The Rainbow Island is covered by the inscription formation. As long as we fly to the sky and break through the inscription formation, we can leave. Hurry! Whoosh, whoosh. Streaks of rainbow light could be seen emerging from the mountain ranges, flying into the sky at an extremely fast speed. Lu Ming and the others' expressions changed. However, they were all anxious. No one stopped. If any of them stopped, the other party would take advantage of the situation and attack fiercely. They would definitely be at a disadvantage. However, the four of them also flew to the sky consciously. They fought as they flew. When they were tens of thousands of meters in the sky, they could see that there was indeed a light screen above their heads that covered the Rainbow Island. In the distance, beams of rainbow light bombarded the light screen and pierced through it. The figures disappeared. Boom! The four of them fought. When the battle reached the edge of the light screen was naturally pierced through. The four of them rushed out. Lu Ming appeared outside and found himself floating in the air. Not far away, a part of the Rainbow Island had already returned to the void. The remaining part was also returning to the void and would disappear soon. Around the Rainbow Island, figures flashed and appeared. They were the people who came out of the Rainbow Island. Clang! Not far away, a dazzling golden light flashed. The Frost Blade Spirit Practitioner was closer to Yama King, so he made the first move. He wanted to kill one of them, first before dealing with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. How could Lu Ming let him have his way? With the 9 dragons' heaven stomp, he turned into a stream of light and appeared behind the Ice Saber Spirit Practitioner in an instant. He aimed his long spear directly at the Ice Saber Spirit Practitioner. Damn it! Yama had long since been on guard against him. His sudden attack hadn't been able to injure Yama. Furthermore, Lu Ming's speed and reaction speed were also terrifying. He had arrived almost immediately, ruining Yama's plan to injure Yama. Boom! In the next moment, a huge pressure pressed down on the Frost Blade Spirit Master. Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. This made the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Among the 3 of them, Xian Yanqing was the most troublesome to deal with. The Heavenly Demon Power Field Suppression and Destruction Cut's sneak attack made it impossible for him to unleash his full power. As for Lu Ming and Yama King, they were in charge of ferocious attacks. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner was confident that he could easily crush and kill any one of the 3 of them. However, the 3 of them working together was too difficult to deal with. This area was boiling as the battle was incomparably intense. The people nearby were all alarmed. That's the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. Who are those 3? They can actually fight with the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner? Such powerful battle strength. The 3 of them are all Peak Kings. Unbelievable. Peak Kings can actually fight with the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. Azura, Yama, and Yaksha. That's right, it's the 3 of them. Their moves are exactly the same. The 3 of them are actually fighting the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner together. What's going on? Heavens, it should be the 3 of them. I think there's some conflict on the 7-colored island. Most of the people in the surroundings were Peak Kings. There were also a few Sea of Soul Realm experts. They were all shocked at this scene. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner was a powerful existence at the peak of the 3rd level of Sea of Soul Realm. They could see that his aura was weak and should be injured. However, this was still shocking enough. Many people stood in the air, watching from afar. Rumble! The 7-colored island kept sinking into the void and was about to disappear. The commotion on the 7-colored island shook the entire Golden Sand Island. Countless figures flew over and looked at the 7-colored island that was about to disappear in shock. At the same time, they were shocked by the scene of Lu Ming and the others fighting with the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner. Feng Chuan, come and help me kill these 3 little bastards. The Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner called out. He called out to a 1st-level Sea of Soul Realm expert who was watching nearby. This Feng Chuan was an old acquaintance of the Frost Saber Spirit Practitioner, but they weren't very close. At this moment, Feng Chuan's expression changed. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Yama were too powerful. Even if he attacked, he might not be able to kill them in one strike. If he was counterattacked, he might die here. Moreover, they were still so young. Their potential was too shocking. If he didn't kill them all, when they broke through to the Sea of Soul realm, he wouldn't dare to appear. Therefore, he hesitated and couldn't make up his mind. Feng Chuan, you're still not attacking? Do you want to die? The Frost Saber Spirit practitioner threatened. Feng Chuan's expression turned ugly again. Kill! Xian Yanqing shouted. Her arm pressed down again, and a beautiful arm formed. The arm was huge, and the palm alone was 10 meters wide. It pressed down on the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner. This was Xian Yanqing's bloodline martial technique. Extreme Path Strike. Golden Light Tear. Lu Ming and the King of Hell also unleashed their strongest attacks. They wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. The longer the battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for them. The Frost Saber Spirit practitioner knew many people, but they were outsiders. The three of them all used their strongest attacks. The Frost Saber Spirit practitioner's expression changed drastically, and he exploded with all his power to defend. Bang! The power of the three fell on the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner. The Frost Saber Spirit practitioner's saber light was shattered, and the ice armor covering his body was also shattered. The Frost Saber Spirit practitioner screamed, and his body flew far away, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Kill! Lu Ming and the other two madly pounced on the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner. Frost Saber Storm. The Frost Saber Spirit practitioner's face flashed with an abnormal color. In an instant, he slashed out hundreds of times towards Lu Ming and the other two. Break! The three of them worked together to break the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner's Frost Saber Storm and charged towards the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner. The Frost Saber Spirit practitioner's face turned pale. He was actually at a disadvantage. If this continued, he would be in danger. At this moment, a scarlet sword chi crossed the void and slashed towards Lu Ming and the other two. Their expressions changed, and they blocked the sword chi, but their bodies couldn't help but stop. Whoosh! A red-robed old man appeared in front of the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner. It was Old Monster Hongqi. Ha, Old Monster Hongqi, you're here. Good, let's kill these three little bastards together. Seeing Old Monster Hongqi, the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner was ecstatic. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Yama's expressions became serious. The three of them stood side by side, staring at the Frost Saber Spirit practitioner and Old Monster Hongqi. Chapter 685. Old Freak Hongqi was the same as the Cold Blade Spirit warrior. He was also injured in the formation, but no one knew how serious his injuries were. If he retained the same fighting strength as the Cold Blade Spirit warrior, or even stronger than the latter, they would be in trouble. Today, it was impossible for them to kill Frost Blade Spirit Master. Frost Blade Spirit Master and Old Freak Hongqi charged toward Lu Ming and the other two. Around them, everyone was watching attentively. They were extremely curious in their hearts. Would the three rising geniuses die in the hands of the two old monsters? Buzz! Just then, a golden pagoda appeared on Hell King's body. The golden pagoda emitted a dazzling golden light that was even more dazzling than the sun. Those rays of golden light were like rays of incomparably sharp sword chi. Golden Light Sword Pagoda, Frost Blade Spirit Master, and Old Freak Hongqi exclaimed when they saw the golden pagoda. It's the Golden Light Sword Pagoda. The others around them also exclaimed in shock. Are you from the Golden Sword sect? Old Freak Hongqi asked with a grave expression. In the west of the chaotic astral ocean, there was a large region near the exposed star, called the Golden Light region. The Golden Light region was very famous in the eastern wilderness. It was not a small region, but a large one with terrifying strength. The top sect in the Golden Light region was the Golden Sword sect. Although the Golden Light region was under the control of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, and the Golden Sword sect was also a subordinate force of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, the Golden Sword sect had a lot of say in the Golden Light region. It was almost as powerful as the branch of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace in the Golden Light region. The Golden Light Sword Pagoda could only be owned by the true geniuses of the Golden Sword sect. It was very famous and close to the exposed Star Sea. I'm Kenfei Ryu. King of Hell slowly announced his name. What? You're Kenfei Ryu, the top genius of the Golden Sword sect. Kenfei Ryu ranked 788th on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Hearing Hell King's words, old Freekong Chi and Frostblade's Spirit Master's expressions changed drastically. Cries of surprise could be heard from all around. The King of Hell was Kenfei Ryu, ranked 788th on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's eyes also flickered. They had naturally heard of Kenfei Ryu. His name was recorded on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Wilderness. Ranked 788, he was indeed much stronger than Li Xiaoyun. Old Ghost Han Dao, let's just forget about what happened today. Old Man Hongqi's expression changed as he said to Ice Saber Spirit Master. He wasn't afraid of Kenfei Ryu, but of the Golden Sword sect behind Kenfei Ryu. What are you afraid of? Let's kill them today and find a small island to hide on. Do you think the Golden Sword sect will be able to find us? Han Dao's eyes were filled with viciousness as he said, moreover, these brats all have valuable treasures on them. If we get them, we'll split them equally. Old Red, don't be such a coward. Ice Saber Spirit Master's eyes were cold. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had entered the hall. They had gone in to check, but it was empty. Even the Flood Dragon was gone. He guessed that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing must have gotten the treasures inside. Moreover, his hatred for Lu Ming was too strong. He wouldn't be satisfied if he didn't kill Lu Ming. Kenfei Ryu, on the other hand, had gotten the treasures in the other hall. Therefore, he didn't want to let the three of them go so easily. Old Man Hongqi's expression also changed. He was also tempted by the treasure that Ice Saber Spirit Master valued. Old Ice Saber, let's see if you can kill us. Do you think I don't have any life-saving treasures on me? Let's put it another way. If I control the Golden Sword Pagoda with all my might, do you think you can stop it? I'm confident that I can kill one of you. Which one of you wants to die? Kenfei Ryu sneered, looking at Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi. Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi's expression turned ugly. They knew that Kenfei Ryu was right. How could a genius like Kenfei Ryu not have any life-saving treasures on him? Moreover, the Golden Sword Pagoda was a famous treasure. With Kenfei Ryu's cultivation, it would be difficult for him to control it. However, if he was forced to use it, one of them might be killed. Brother Jian, why bother talking nonsense with them? I also have something on me. If I use it, I can kill one of them. Lu Ming said coldly. Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi's expression changed again. They couldn't help but step back. They had no choice but to believe that Lu Ming was telling the truth. Lu Ming was so young, but his combat ability was strong. He was not inferior to Jian Filiu at all. He was definitely born in a powerful force. It was highly possible that he had a treasure with him to protect himself. Moreover, there was also Xian Yanqing. They began to hesitate. This was the advantage of being a big force. It was not something that independent cultivators like them could compare with. Lu Ming looked coldly at Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi. What he said just now was half true and half false. He did have a killing move, which was the Thunder Cauldron. However, if he used it, he would be at the mercy of others. Under such circumstances, Lu Ming did not plan to use the Thunder Cauldron. He said it just to scare Ice Saber Spirit Master and Old Man Hongqi. In my opinion, let's forget about today's matter. After pondering for a while, Old Man Hongqi spoke. Obviously, he did not dare to gamble with his life. Ice Saber Spirit Master's face turned ugly. He was very unwilling. However, if Old Man Hongqi withdrew, he could not do anything to Lu Ming and the others. He might even be killed by them. Little bastards, wait until I recover from my injuries. See how I kill you. Ice Saber Spirit Master roared in his heart. If he was in his prime, he was absolutely confident that he could kill Lu Ming and Kenfei Ryu before they used their secret treasures. Let's go. Ice Saber Spirit Master glanced at Lu Ming and the others. Then he and Old Man Hongqi turned into two streaks of light and flew into the distance. Rumble! At this time, the Rainbow Island had completely disappeared in the void. The void returned to its calm state. I still don't know how to address the two of you. I really admire your cultivation and combat strength. Kenfei Ryu put away the golden sword pagoda and cupped his fists to Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. I'm Lu Ming. Lu Ming cupped his fists and smiled. Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing said coldly. Lu Ming? Xian Yanqing? Kenfei Ryu pondered for a while. Obviously, he had not heard of these two names. Then he smiled bitterly and said, I've long heard that this generation is in the golden age. There are many geniuses and talents rising. It seems that it's true. Along the way, I've met no less than 5 geniuses who are not inferior to the list of top 1,000 talents. No wonder Tianji Chamber of Commerce hasn't released a new list when it's time to update the list of top 1,000 talents. Perhaps there are too many rising geniuses for Tianji Chamber of Commerce to control them all. Lu Ming nodded. He was also curious. The list of top 1,000 talents would be updated every 2 years. According to the time, 2 years should have passed, but the new list of top 1,000 talents had not been updated. Obviously, it had something to do with the current era. With the arrival of the new era, talents would rise. Although Tianji Chamber of Commerce was powerful, it was difficult to control them all. Chapter 686. Kenfei Ryu showed off his ability in battle, but he was still very easygoing. Moreover, when he was on Rainbow Island, he could have taken the opportunity to escape, but he turned back to help Lu Ming and the others deal with the Frost Blade Spirit Master. His character was not bad, and Lu Ming had a good impression of him. Xian Yanqing stood to the side and did not speak. Lu Ming and Kenfei Ryu chatted for a while, and then Kenfei Ryu said goodbye. Brother Lu, Miss Xia, it's not good to stay on Golden Sand Island for long. If the Frost Blade Spirit Master recovers, he will definitely not let you go. I plan to leave Golden Sand Island. What about you? Kenfei Ryu said. Yes, us too. Lu Ming nodded. Good. We'll meet again if fate wills it. Kenfei Ryu cupped his fists and disappeared. Let's go. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing looked at each other and also left. The news of this battle was bound to spread, and it would spread further and further. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing did plan to leave Golden Sand Island. During this period, Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing had gained a lot, and they needed to find a quiet place to digest it. Xia Nianqing's destruction concept and wind concept were about to merge successfully. She needed to find a place to go into seclusion and break through in one go. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had not properly studied the suppressing prison heaven skill he had obtained from the suppressing prison steel. Also, the 7-colored spiritual master's spirit fire was constantly being refined. He also needed to go into seclusion for a while to digest it. The two flew to the west of Golden Sand Island. Soon, they crossed the entire island and arrived at the western coast. Lu Ming's hand moved, and a map appeared in his hand. This was the map of the chaotic astral ocean he had bought in Jinsha Island. There was a sea on it, and there were countless stars in the sea. Those were all islands. Jinsha Island was relatively close to the east. After watching for a while, Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing soared into the sky and flew towards the west. They planned to find an uninhabited island and go into seclusion for a period of time. After Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing left, Kenfei Ryu appeared on another beach. With a wave of his hand, a metal box appeared in his hand. Inscriptions flowed on the surface of the metal box, sealing it. This is something I obtained from the palace on the seven-colored island. It has the words Martial Monarch's Treasure Key on it. Martial Monarch's Treasure. I wonder if it's real? Jin, Filiu said in a low voice as a blazing light flashed in his eyes. The words Martial Emperor's Treasure were too attractive. It doesn't matter if it's real or fake. Since it was collected by the seven-colored Taoist, it must be extraordinary. Unfortunately, there is an inscription formation seal on it. It looks like I'll have to spend some time to open this seal. After saying that, Kenfei Ryu put away the metal box and flew towards the sea, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were extremely fast. After flying for 2 days, they finally found a deserted island. The deserted island was not big, with a radius of less than 100 miles. No one lived on it. The two landed on the deserted island and sorted out the things they had obtained from the seven-colored island. This time, they had obtained a lot of things. There were supreme-grade spiritual crystals, cultivation techniques, martial skills, and even ultimacy crystals, especially spiritual herbs, which were the most abundant. The two of them split the loot equally. Then they each found a place and began their seclusion. Dandan, take advantage of this period of time to inscribe level 4 and above inscriptions. Also, give me some inscription formations. I'll study them when I have time. In Dandan's mind, there were countless inscriptions and inscription formations. Naturally, he had to make good use of them. Exchange them with spiritual herbs. Dandan took the opportunity to ask for spiritual herbs. Take them. Lu Ming took out a level 5 spiritual herb and threw it to Dandan. On the seven-colored island, Lu Ming had obtained a lot of spiritual herbs and was very rich. Dandan took the elixir and ran off to inscribe the inscriptions on it. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and sank his consciousness into his sea of consciousness. In his sea of consciousness, 10 green spirit lamps burned fiercely. That's right. In the past few days, Lu Ming had ignited 10 green spirit lamps and reached the perfect stage of a level 4 inscription master. Next, he would be breaking through to the level 5 inscription master. The level 5 inscription master was a hurdle. Once crossed, there would be a qualitative change. A true inscription master would have terrifying combat strength. Lu Ming used the underworld god observation method, and the flowing geocentric flame in his sea of consciousness burned fiercely, constantly refining the seven-colored Taoist spirit flames. The seven-colored Taoist spirit flames had already shrunk, but there was still a lot left. In the future, Lu Ming's spirit flames would still advance by leaps and bounds. Whose strands of spirit flames floated down and merged with Lu Ming's own spirit flames. His spirit flames continued to grow. 3 hours later, the 10 green spirit lamps suddenly extinguished. Then, a wisp of green flame slowly appeared on the first spirit lamp. Green spirit flames, a level 5 inscription master. Boom! The moment the green flame appeared, Lu Ming's mind shook, and a loud rumbling sound rang out. Wang! At this moment, 5 rings of light suddenly appeared above Lu Ming's head. 5 rings of light with 5 different colors. At the bottom was a crimson ring of light. On the ring of light, there were 10 points that were evenly distributed. They emitted resplendent light, like stars. From bottom to top, the second halo was orange and also had 10 points. It was incomparably resplendent. The third halo was yellow and also had 10 points. The fourth halo was green and also had 10 points. Only the fifth ring was different. It was green, but there was only one dot on it. Spirit ring. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. As long as an inscription master reached level 5, a spirit ring would appear. Each color of the spirit ring represented a corresponding level. For example, the ring at the bottom represented a level 1 inscription master. The 10 dots on it represented the number of spirit lamps that had been lit. Lu Ming's first 4 levels all had 10 spirit lamps lit, so there were 10 dots. If a level only had 5 spirit lamps lit, then there would only be 5 dots. The spirit ring could clearly display an inscription master's cultivation situation. With a thought, Lin Yun put away the spirit ring. Then Lu Ming's consciousness sank into the green spirit flames. Boom! In an instant, Lu Ming's spirit flames extended out and flew out of his body, floating between heaven and earth. At this moment, the entire world in his eyes was filled with a myriad of colors. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Lu Ming could clearly sense the various colors, attributes, and energies of heaven and earth. What a wonderful feeling! Lu Ming was extremely curious. His spirit flames continued to extend out, but the further it went, the weaker the energy Lu Ming felt. Let's test the power of the inscription array. Returning to his senses, Lu Ming stood up. Stomp! Stomp! He took several steps on the ground, and inscriptions appeared on the ground. These inscriptions intersected and formed an inscription array. Bang! As Lu Ming took the last step, a battle sword flew out from the array and slashed at a mound. Bang! The mound was directly split into 2. As expected, an inscription array can carry the power of heaven and earth and unleash a powerful attack. Is this the power of a level 5 inscription master? It's indeed wonderful. Chapter 687. Right now, he had just stepped into the 5th level and had only ignited 1 spirit lamp. Later on, when he ignited more spirit lamps and mastered more powerful inscription formations, his attack power would be even stronger. The formation that Lu Ming had just inscribed was only a 3rd level formation, so its attack power was limited. An inscription master's combat power was related to the strength of their spirit flames, but it also had a lot to do with the inscription formations they mastered. The stronger the spirit flames, the more power of heaven and earth they could control. The stronger the inscription formation, the more terrifying its power would be. The 7-colored spiritual masters, spirit flames, have some experience, and even the art of alchemy and formations. However, it's too messy now. I'll sort it out after refining all of his spirit flames. Now, all I have to do is wait for Dandan to inscribe inscriptions and formations. Before that, I'll put aside the art of inscription, for now. Anyway, the flowing geocentric flame was constantly refining the 7-colored spiritual master's spirit flames. His spirit flames were constantly growing stronger, so he could ignore it for now. Suppressing steel. Lu Ming planned to study the suppressing steel and suppressing hell heaven skill for his 2nd bloodline. With a thought, the suppressing steel appeared. Suppressing steel. Suppressing steel. What is it suppressing? The 9 serenities, hell? Lu Ming smiled faintly. The clouds in front of the suppressing steel had already dispersed, but the rest of the steel was still shrouded in clouds and looked very mysterious. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly realized that he could feel an extremely heavy intent lingering in his heart. It was incomparably clear. This is the earth. Yes, this is the power of the earth. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He stepped on the earth, and slowly he seemed to have become one with the earth. The power of the earth. Yes, this is the power of the earth. This suppressing steel is really amazing. It can actually let me feel the power of the earth so clearly. Lu Ming knew very well that this was all because of the suppressing steel. In the past, when he stepped on the earth, he didn't have this feeling, but now he did. It seemed that the suppressing steel was very compatible with the earth. Lu Ming had a feeling that if he wanted to comprehend the power of the earth now, he could quickly comprehend it and master it. Should I comprehend it? Lu Ming hesitated. Once he comprehended the force of the earth, the number of forces he could control, and even the concepts of heaven and earth would increase to 4. His cultivation speed would definitely slow down. And the more concepts one comprehended, the greater the repulsive force would be, and the more difficult it would be to cultivate. Lu Ming had to consider it. Let's take a look at the suppressing hell-heaven skill first, then think about it. Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. In his mind, information regarding the hell-suppressing heaven art appeared. During this period of time, he hadn't had the chance to properly study the hell-suppressing heaven skill. Immediately, all the information related to the suppressing hell-heaven skill echoed in Lu Ming's mind. After more than an hour, Lu Ming opened his eyes. What a wonderful martial skill! Lu Ming's eyes revealed a trace of amazement. There was no doubt that the hell-suppressing heaven art was a bloodline martial skill, but it was very different from other bloodline martial skills. First of all, the hell-suppressing heaven art didn't have any fixed moves. It was more like a combat skill. After successfully cultivating it, one could borrow the power of the bloodline. Every punch, palm, or even kick would contain the power of the hell-suppressing steel, and its power would be extremely terrifying. Even if one cultivated it to the highest level, it wouldn't be limited to the hands and feet. Every part of the body could be used to fight. The back, shoulders, and so on could contain the power of the hell-suppressing steel and unleash terrifying attacks, turning them into killing weapons. Also, the hell-suppressing heaven art didn't have a specific grade. It had a lot to do with the power of the bloodline. The stronger the power of the bloodline, the stronger the power of the hell-suppressing steel. If one awakened a 9th grade king class bloodline, then the power of the hell-suppressing heaven art could barely reach the first level of a demigod class martial skill. If one awakened a 1st grade god class bloodline, then the power of the hell-suppressing heaven art could even reach the 6th level of a demigod class martial skill. Demigod class. Lu Ming's eyes emitted a bright light. Other people could only awaken a fixed bloodline grade, but Lu Ming could continuously upgrade it. This martial skill was simply too suitable for Lu Ming. However, there was a requirement for the hell-suppressing heaven art, and that was to use the earth concept as the core in order to display its strongest power. This was because the earth concept was the most compatible with the hell-suppressing steel. It seems like I still need to comprehend the earth concept. Lu Ming's mouth curved into a bitter smile. However, Lu Ming quickly made a decision. Comprehend it. Comprehending the power of the earth and the concept of the earth would greatly increase his battle prowess. Moreover, if he could integrate the concept of the earth into the 3 ultimate skills of the dragon god in the future, the 3 ultimate skills of the dragon god would transform into a low-grade demigod martial skill. It could be said to be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Lu Ming carefully went through the contents of the hell-suppressing heaven art in his mind. Then, the hell-suppressing steel's bloodline appeared. Lu Ming planned to start comprehending the earth concept. When the earth concept had reached a certain level, he would combine it with the earth concept and cultivate the hell-suppressing heaven art together. Taking out the Enlightenment ancient tree and placing it beside him, Lu Ming's mind became incomparably clear. He seemed to have become one with the earth under his feet. He seemed to see this small island extending all the way down to the bottom of the sea, merging with the endless earth. A heavy, grand, vast, and vicissitude feeling rippled in Lu Ming's heart. After an unknown period of time, Lu Ming's body also emitted a heavy, grand, vast, and vicissitude feeling. Earth concept, elementary level. At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes. He suddenly stood up and struck out with his palm. Boom! This palm seemed to be incomparably heavy, and heavy as if it could crush space. After an explosion, Lu Ming stopped. He frowned and muttered, "No, again." At this moment, he was cultivating the hell-suppressing heaven art. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming alternated between using his palm, fist, and finger, constantly striking the air. In this way, Lu Ming cultivated continuously for 3 days. 3 days later, every time he struck out with his palm, it was as if there was a huge mountain in his palm, causing the air to rumble and explode. After cultivating for another 10 minutes, Lu Ming let out a long breath. After 3 days of cultivation, the hell-suppressing heaven art could be considered as elementary level. However, Lu Ming could only use it with his hands now. If he wanted to use it with his feet, there was still a long way to go. As for being able to use it with his whole body, the distance was even greater. In these few days, Lu Ming did not continue to comprehend the earth concept. He wanted to take advantage of the fact that the earth force's maturity was still low to merge it with the other 3 intents. Otherwise, when the earth force's maturity was high, it would be even more difficult to merge them. The more mature it was, the stronger the repulsive force. Let's go and see how Shaoqing's cultivation is going. Lu Ming walked to the other side of the island. Xie Nianqing was cultivating on the other side of the island. Chapter 688. Little Qing, did you encounter a problem in your cultivation? Lu Ming walked over and stood side by side with Xie Nianqing. The sea breeze blew, blowing Xie Nianqing's skirt and black hair. At this moment, Xie Nianqing was like a goddess descending to the mortal world. I don't know why. The destruction intent realm and wind intent realm are always a little lacking and difficult to merge. Xie Nianqing said, could it be that the destruction intent realm is too strong, so the repulsive force is stronger? Lu Ming guessed. That's right. Xie Nianqing nodded. Sure enough, it was the same as Lu Ming's guess. The destruction intent realm was an extremely powerful and terrifying intent realm that could destroy everything. It was even stronger than the star intent realm of the sacred stars. As for the wind intent realm, it was one of the 9 common intents. Compared to the destruction intent realm, there was still a gap. Therefore, it was even more difficult to merge them. It was like a poor person wanting to be friends with a rich person. It was very difficult. However, it was much easier for 2 poor people or 2 rich people to be friends. The destruction intent realm was equivalent to the rich person, and the wind intent realm was equivalent to the poor person. To put it more accurately, the destruction intent realm disdained to merge with the wind intent realm. Lu Ming pondered for a moment, and then said, Little Qing, try comprehending it with this. With a wave of his hand, the Enlightenment ancient tree appeared on the ground. Xie Nianqing was stunned at first. Then she sensed it, and her expression changed drastically. As she sensed it carefully, her expression became more and more interesting. Is this the legendary Enlightenment ancient tree? Xie Nianqing looked at Lu Ming. Her voice was trembling, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Yes, I was lucky to get a withered branch of the Enlightenment ancient tree. I didn't expect it to really sprout. Lu Ming smiled slightly. You showed me such a valuable thing. Aren't you afraid that I'll have evil thoughts and take it away? Xia Nianqing blinked her big eyes and looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Do you know how to do it? Puchi. Xia Nianqing laughed out loud. At this moment, her smile was incomparably brilliant and incomparably happy. Her beautiful eyes blinked as she stared at Lu Ming as if she wanted to engrave him in her heart. How is it? Are you very touched? Don't tell me you want to give yourself to me? I'm not ready yet. Lu Ming said with a smile. Promise my ass. Humph, lend me this enlightenment ancient tree for 2 days. Xia Nianqing curled her lips. Then her eyes flashed, and she said, Since you're so sincere, I'll reward you. After saying that, Xia Nianqing suddenly stood on her tiptoes and kissed Lu Ming's face. Then, with a red face, she hugged the enlightenment ancient tree pill furnace and ran off to cultivate. Hee hee. Lu Ming touched the place where Xia Nianqing had kissed him and giggled. Boy, why are you here? I've been looking for you for a long time. Danden's voice sounded. It ran wildly in the air with its short legs and flew towards Lu Ming. Have you finished carving inscriptions and inscription formations? Lu Ming looked at Danden. I'm done. I'm exhausted. But let me tell you, my cultivation is limited now. I can only carve level 5 inscriptions and some level 5 inscription formations. I can't carve more inscriptions than that. You need to wait for me to recover a little more. Danden spat out more than a dozen jade plates from its mouth and handed them to Lu Ming. Only level 5 inscriptions? Lu Ming whispered. Boy, let me tell you, don't underestimate my inscriptions and inscription formations. Who am I? I have mastered a lot of inscriptions and inscription formations that you don't have here. They are very rare and powerful. Many of them are not worse than level 6 formations. With your mental strength, the power they exert is definitely not weaker than ordinary level 6 formations. Danden explained proudly. Oh, since you've worked so hard, these spiritual herbs are your reward. Lu Ming took out some level 5 spiritual herbs and threw them to Danden. Danden gritted its teeth. With its status, it didn't need others to reward it. It was always the one who rewarded others. Now Lu Ming, a young boy, actually took out a few level 5 spiritual herbs and said they were for it. This made Danden's turtle shell rise and fall. What? Don't want it? Forget it. Lu Ming said. Yes, yes, of course. Danden hurriedly put away the elixir and warned herself in her heart that she had no choice but to lower her head when she was under the eaves. Then it ran away happily. Lu Ming took out the jade token that Danden gave him and looked at it. Some were level 4 and level 5 inscriptions, and some were all kinds of inscription formations. After Lu Ming looked at it, he began to comprehend it. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Xia Nianqing returned the enlightenment ancient tree to Lu Ming. How is it? Did you gain anything? Lu Ming asked. I gained something. Come, let's fight. I need a strong pressure. Xia Nianqing said. That's exactly what I want. I want to fight with you. Lu Ming smiled, and the momentum of the earth spread out from his body. He also wanted to fight with Xia Nianqing and integrate the momentum of the earth with the other 3 intents. Xia Nianqing's beautiful eyes suddenly widened and exclaimed, Momentum of the earth, you actually comprehended the momentum of the earth. Yes, I can't help it. Lu Ming sighed softly. What a monster. Xia Nianqing muttered. Lu Ming was speechless. Boom, boom. After a while, there was a deafening roar on the island. Above the island, 2 figures were constantly bombarding each other, and the sky was constantly shaking. After a few hundred moves, the 2 stopped and comprehended their intents. Just like that, half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Every day, the 2 would spend some time fighting to promote the integration of intents. During the rest of the time, Lu Ming would cultivate the hell-suppressing heaven skill, comprehend, and cultivate various inscriptions and fight with inscriptions. Lu Ming's gains were huge, and he was improving every day. He could easily inscribe the inscriptions and inscription formations that Dandan gave him. As for the hell-suppressing heaven skill, Lu Ming had cultivated it to his feet. Lu Ming's every punch, every palm, and every kick seemed to contain a prison-suppressing monument, suppressing everything. However, using the hell-suppressing heaven skill consumed too much shenyuan. Lu Ming's shenyuan was much more vigorous than other martial artists in the same realm, but it still consumed a lot of shenyuan, and he couldn't support too many moves. He wouldn't be able to use more than half of his shenyuan after a few moves. It should be known that even Sea of Soul realm experts didn't have many low-grade demigod martial skills. Many low-grade Sea of Soul realm experts cultivated high-grade, heaven-grade martial skills. Some rogue cultivators, who were a bit shabby, still cultivated low-grade, heaven-grade martial skills. Generally, only high-grade Sea of Soul realm experts could bring out the full power of low-grade demigod martial skills. Hell-suppressing heaven skill can be my trump card. I should use it as little as possible. Lu Ming pondered. As for the integration of aura of earth with the other three intents, his progress was also very fast, and he was just a little bit away. After all, Lu Ming had the previous two experiences, and the current aura of earth was still very weak, so the integration was a bit faster. As for Xian Yanqing, after such a long time of cultivation, he finally succeeded in integrating destruction intent and wind intent in one go. This caused Xian Yanqing's battle strength to increase crazily. The might of the integration of destruction intent and wind intent shocked even Lu Ming. Chapter 689. Lu Ming, the last key to the martial emperor's treasure, has finally appeared. Xian Yanqing flew over, holding a small jade sword in his hand. Lu Ming's hand moved, and a jade sword appeared. At this moment, the 9 lines on the sword hilt all lit up, flashing with a dazzling light. Lu Ming was also somewhat excited. The 9 keys had finally appeared, which meant that the martial emperor's treasure was about to be opened. Let's inject our true qi and see if there are any changes. Lu Ming said. Xian Yanqing nodded, and together with Lu Ming, injected their true qi into the jade sword. The jade sword trembled slightly, and then a map appeared in the air. There are changes. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The map began to change, and slowly the dot became bigger. Lu Ming and the others realized that the map of the chaotic astral ocean was getting bigger and bigger in front of their eyes. On the map, there was still a dot pointing to a place. As the map changed, the other areas on the side disappeared, leaving only the chaotic astral ocean on the map. That pointed to a sea area in the north of the chaotic astral ocean. Their eyes lit up. Obviously, that was the location of the martial emperor's treasure. Everyone, can you hear me? At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the 2 jade swords. This voice was rough, like the voice of a middle-aged man. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were shocked. How could there be a voice? Could it be the spirit of the jade swords, or the voice that was sealed inside the jade swords when they were refined? But at this moment, another voice came out. Who are you? The voice seemed to be a young man. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing looked at each other. It didn't seem to be what they thought. Everyone, you should have all obtained the keys to the martial emperor's treasure. I am one of you. The rough voice began to speak again. What a mysterious formation. It can actually transmit messages to each other. It seems like the 9 keys already have an owner. At that moment, an aged voice was heard. It seemed to be a very old, oh, that's right. The 9 jade swords can communicate with each other. Where are you now? Now that we know where the treasure trove is, It's time for us to open it. The rough voice said again. Hee, I arrived at the chaotic astral ocean a long time ago. Oldo's voice sounded. I'm also in the chaotic astral ocean. The young voice sounded. I'm also in the chaotic astral ocean. At this moment, another voice rang out. It was a new voice, and it sounded very young. Upon hearing this figure, Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming's expressions changed slightly because they were quite familiar with this voice. Kenfei Ryu. That's right. It was Kenfei Ryu's voice. Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he channeled his true yuan into the sword. King of Hell. The voice from the jade sword went silent. After a while, a voice could be heard. Shura? It sounded very surprised. That's right, Lu Ming said. This time, they were sure that the other party was really Kenfei Ryu. They didn't call each other's real names. The martial emperor's treasure was of great importance. Now, they couldn't leak the information. It seems that some of you know each other. What a coincidence. Is there anyone else here? I'm also in the chaotic astral ocean. Where are the others? The rough voice rang out. Then there was silence. After a while, another voice rang out. I'm in the chaotic astral ocean. Me too. Two new voices rang out in succession. In this way, there were a total of 7 voices. Xian Yanqing didn't speak. Except for Xian Yanqing, there was only one person left. Everyone, I'm on my way to the chaotic astral ocean. It will take me half a month. Why don't you wait for me at the treasure trove? At this moment, a clear voice rang out. It was a woman's voice. It sounded very young and somewhat timid. Half a month? Okay, we'll wait for you there first. The rough voice rang out. Wait a minute, let's discuss this first. The martial emperor's treasure is of great importance. Whether it's true or not, we can't leak it out. You didn't leak it out, did you? Oldo's voice rang out. No, how could I tell others about the martial emperor's treasure? Only me. The others spoke, one after another. That's good. We'll meet at the treasure trove. Oldo's voice rang out. Then there was no other voice. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing retracted their true essences. The map disappeared. Lu Ming, what do you think? Xian Yanqing asked. We can't believe all of these people's words. Who knows if they brought others with them? We can go to the treasure trove first, but we can't show ourselves. Lu Ming said. Xian Yanqing nodded and said, I think so too. It was about the martial emperor's treasure. Although they didn't know whether it was true or not, it was still no small matter. It was better to be as careful as possible. Let's go. It's a long journey from here to the destination, Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming nodded and called Dandan. The two of them rose into the air and flew in the direction marked on the map. After flying for half a month, they were finally close to the sea. The two of them followed the map and flew in the air, looking down. It should be that small island. Lu Ming pointed at a small island in front of them. That small island was the location marked on the map. There were 9 huge stone pillars on the small island. They looked like mountain peaks, but there was not a single blade of grass growing on them. Furthermore, the appearance of the 9 stone pillars resembled 9 swords. They were all pointing straight up. Lu Ming, look, there's someone there, Xian Yanqing whispered. Lu Ming looked over. Indeed, there was a figure sitting cross-legged on one of the sword-shaped stone pillars. From afar, it looked like a middle-aged man. There's only one person. Let's find an island nearby to settle down and act according to the situation, Lu Ming said in a low voice. Xian Yanqing nodded. They had to be careful. Other than Kenfei Ryu, they didn't know the other owners of the martial emperor's treasure. They didn't know the other party's cultivation or background. if an almighty at the high level of the spirit sea realm or a strong practitioner at the spirit embryo realm came, wouldn't they be courting death if they appeared rashly and wanted to kill them? The two of them retreated and landed on a small island 10,000 miles away. They planned to cultivate while waiting for an opportunity. During the half a month on the road, they didn't fall behind too much in their cultivation. In their minds, they were constantly comprehending various martial techniques. Lu Ming, in particular, was more familiar with the use of various inscriptions and inscription formations. Moreover, the seven-colored spiritual master's spiritual fire was almost completely refined. Lu Ming had already ignited 10 green spiritual lamps. Chapter 690. However, Lu Ming was already very satisfied. Even Lu Ming himself didn't know how powerful the perfect fifth-level spirit fire and the inscription formations given to him by Dandan could be, but it was definitely stronger than his martial arts combat strength. The seven-colored Taoist experience and knowledge of the path of inscription were integrated into Lu Ming's spirit along with the spirit fire. These were precious treasures, the seven-colored Taoist's 1,000 years of experience in the path of inscription. However, Lu Ming still needed to spend some time to fully master it if he wanted to use it for his own use. The two of them landed on the island, cultivating as they waited. 2 days later, Lu Ming secretly went to the small island to take a look and found that there was one more person. A young man was sitting cross-legged on another stone pillar. Lu Ming didn't show up and returned to the small island. At this time, there was movement in the jade sword again. Lu Ming took it out and injected his true essence into it. A voice sounded, "Everyone, I have arrived at my destination. Brother Lu is with me. When will you arrive?" A rough voice sounded. It should be the burly man. "I'm on my way. In a few days." Oldo's voice sounded. "Me too." Lu Ming also answered in the same way. The other voices also answered in the same way. "Everyone, I have arrived at the chaotic astral ocean, but it will take me another 10 days to reach my destination. I'm really sorry." The timid voice sounded. "It doesn't matter if you wait a few more days, but let's set a rule. Those who come to meet us better show their jade sword. Both sides can prove their identity to avoid misunderstandings." The rough voice said, "Okay, I have no objection." "That's great." Voices sounded one after another. Xian Yanqing didn't say anything. One was that Xian Yanqing didn't like to talk, and the other was that they deliberately didn't expose a jade sword. It might be useful at a critical moment. Then, Lu Ming put away the jade sword and continued to cultivate. He integrated the seven-colored Taoist's experience very quickly. His understanding and application of the path of inscription were advancing by leaps and bounds. Of course, inscribers all leaned in different directions. Some leaned towards artifact forging, some leaned towards alchemy, some leaned towards talisman crafting, and some leaned towards array formations. The seven-colored Taoist leaned towards alchemy, followed by formations. Lu Ming's knowledge and experience in alchemy increased rapidly. Of course, his array formations also improved very quickly. On the small island, Lu Ming took a series of steps on the ground. Without a sound, the ground was covered with inscriptions. At the same time, he waved his hands continuously. In the void, inscriptions flashed and flew into the surrounding trees and big rocks. After a while, he stopped. "Brat, your luck is really enviable. 5th level perfection, the experience of the seven-colored Taoist, and an abnormal inscription talent. Now, you are completely a qualified true inscription refinement grandmaster." On the side, Dandan sighed. It wasn't easy to get Dandan's praise. After all, Lu Ming had only been in contact with the path of inscription for a short time. His foundation was insufficient. Although the cultivation of the spiritual fire was very fast, the other things couldn't be made up for. He needed a lot of time to accumulate them. But now, Lu Ming had integrated the experience of the seven-color Taoist and skipped this step. Experience, spiritual fire, and all other aspects could be considered to be on par. Of course, this was an opportunity that couldn't be replicated. The seven-colored Taoist had rushed into Lu Ming's sea of consciousness and wanted to occupy Lu Ming's body. Other inscribers wouldn't do this and rush into someone else's sea of consciousness. Lu Ming just happened to have the flowing earth flame and the underworld god visualization. With some achievements in the path of inscription, Lu Ming put more effort into the cultivation of martial arts. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. During these days, every 2 days, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing would go to the small island to secretly observe. There were more and more people on the small island. There were already 5 people there. Even the timid woman had arrived. Almost everyone is here. Let's go and meet up with them, Lu Ming said. Those 5 people had been living peacefully for the past few days, so there shouldn't be any problems. Okay, Xian Yanqing nodded. The 2 of them headed towards the island together. Soon, they were close to the island. The 2 of them didn't hide their whereabouts. When they arrived, the 5 people on the island naturally noticed them. Who are you? One of the burly men spoke with a rough voice. Lu Ming moved his hand, and a sparkling jade sword appeared. The eyes of the other 5 lit up, and a jade sword appeared in each of their hands. Sir, I've said before that you're not allowed to tell others. Why did you bring someone here? The burly man's face turned cold. The others' faces also turned cold as they looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. She's my wife. Why? I can't even bring my wife. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing's hand and smiled. Xian Yanqing's face turned red as she gritted her teeth. This guy took advantage of her again. However, under such circumstances, she naturally couldn't deny it and let Lu Ming hold her hand. Wife. The burly man's eyes flickered. Since it's your wife, I think it should be fine. A timid voice sounded. The owner of this voice was a young woman. She was very beautiful and looked weak, but from her aura, she was a peak king. Okay, since that's the case, brother, please come to the island, the burly man said. Lu Ming nodded and pulled Xian Yanqing onto the island. Step by step, they walked toward a stone pillar at the center of the island. No one noticed that every time Lu Ming took a step, there would be a faint flash of light at the spot where his feet touched the ground. Soon, they were about to reach the stone pillar. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. The figures of the 5 people on the stone pillar suddenly flashed and split into 5 directions, surrounding Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions changed slightly. Everyone, what is the meaning of this? Lu Ming looked around. It's very simple. Hand over your jade sword. The burly man sneered. So you want my jade sword? However, even if I give it to you, it won't be enough for you to share. Lu Ming said, Ha, kid, you don't have to divide us. We're all from the same faction. Why should we divide? Odo sneered. However, Lu Ming's heart sank. This was because this Oldo's voice was clearly different from the one he had heard in the jade sword. Did you notice? During this period of time, they all came and died. The delicate woman said. However, at this time, she didn't feel timid at all. Her voice was very cold. A trap. Everything was a trap. Lu Ming's mind was spinning rapidly. The others are all dead. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and said coldly, That's right, kid. Let me tell you. We already had 2 jade swords, so senior brother Zhong Mo and I put on a show. Actually, I've arrived a long time ago, but I said I didn't. I just wanted to lower your guard. The delicate woman sneered and seemed to be very proud. The senior brother Zhong, Mo she was talking about, was the burly man, the one with the rough voice. No wonder it was only the two of them who were talking, and the others didn't. Once the others opened their mouths, they would be exposed. Boom, boom. Chapter 691. Apart from the delicate woman who was a peak tier king, the others were all spiritual ocean tier elites. The strongest was the burly man who was at the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Pung, pung. At this moment, 7 or 8 figures suddenly flew out from the surrounding soil. What's with all the nonsense? There's still 2 jade swords left. Kill them directly, and don't let the last one with the jade sword discover us. Finish this quickly and clean up the scene. One of the white-haired and white-bearded old men spoke, emitting a powerful cultivation at the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This old man had the cultivation of the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. These people were all from the same faction. Obviously, the people who came here before were all killed by them with thunderous methods. Therefore, Lu Ming didn't discover them when he came here several times. Could it be that Kenfei Ryu is also dead? Lu Ming's heart moved. It was a pity that such a genius died in the hands of these people. Wait, I can give you the jade swords, but you have to let us go. Lu Ming shouted. He pulled Xian Yanqing and moved to the side. Every time he moved, there would be a faint ray of light under his feet that sank into the ground. All right, hand over the jade swords, and I can consider sparing your lives. The burly man sneered. The others revealed mocking smiles. This kid was really naive. How could they let them go? Lu Ming's gaze swept over the surroundings. These people were all experts. Of the 7 people who appeared later, 2 were peak tier kings, and the other 5 were all spiritual ocean tier elites. The strongest was obviously the white-haired old man, who had the cultivation of the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This was definitely a person from a large faction. This force was even stronger than the entire Golden Sand Island. Lu Ming's mind raced. With a move of his hand, the jade sword appeared in his hand. Senior, I'll leave it to you. Lu Ming's true essence suddenly exploded, and the jade sword in his hand turned into a flash of lightning shooting towards the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man subconsciously reached out to catch it. What Lu Ming wanted was this moment. Pung, bang. Lu Ming suddenly took 2 steps on the ground. Suddenly, the ground emitted a bright light. Countless inscriptions burst out and turned into 2 swords slashing towards the south. On the south side, there were only 2 martial artists in the 1st layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Of the 4 directions, that side was the weakest. Lu Ming wanted to break out of the encirclement in the south. Damn it! Inscription formation. When did he carve the inscription formation? With a furious roar, everyone unleashed a powerful aura. But he was still a step too late. Puchi, how could the 2 Sea of Soul Realm experts have imagined that 2 mere peak kings would dare to cause trouble? Moreover, they had unknowingly inscribed an inscription array. In his haste, he tried to defend himself, but he was only able to exert 50% of his strength. It was cut in half by the 2 swords. Go! Lu Ming put his arm around Xian Yanqing's slim waist and used the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps to rush towards the south. In the blink of an eye, they were already 10 miles away. Damn it! Where do you think you're going? The white-haired old man caught the jade sword and instantly let out a furious roar, pointing his finger at Lu Ming. A finger force instantly crossed the 10 miles distance and pointed at Lu Ming's heart. Fast, too fast, and the power was terrifyingly strong. The 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier was really too strong. Sky Demon Force Field. Destroy. Xian Yanqing tried his best to use the Sky Demon Force Field, wanting to block it. At the same time, Lu Ming's bloodline completely exploded, and his figure continued to flash to the side. Puff! The powerful finger force pierced through Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming's defenses. Although Lu Ming tried his best to dodge, he was still a bit too slow. His arm was grazed by the finger force, and a large piece of flesh was torn off, almost blowing off one of Lu Ming's arms. Wang! Inscriptions flickered on Lu Ming's body, entering his and Xian Yanqing's bodies. These were inscriptions to increase speed. At the same time, inscriptions flashed on Lu Ming's body. These were inscriptions for Zhenyuan eruption. By now, Lu Ming could instantly inscribe some of the inscriptions that Dandan had used before. Shua! Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, and his speed was unbelievably fast. In an instant, he was already far away. Behind him, the white-haired old man, the burly man, and the others were chasing at extreme speed. The killing intent on their bodies was so dense that it couldn't be dispersed. They had miscalculated. This time, they had miscalculated. It was just 2 peak-tier kings. With their powerful battle strength, they were already cautious enough to surround 2 peak-tier kings. This was practically a sure-win situation. Not even in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that the 2 peak-tier kings would actually be able to charge out. Last time, they had been careless, and a young man had risked his life to escape. Therefore, this time, they had all moved out and surrounded the 2, but the 2 had still managed to escape. The main reason was that Lu Ming's inscription array was too powerful. It could actually kill 2 experts in the first layer of the spiritual sea realm instantly. They chased with all their might, but they realized that Lu Ming's figure was getting farther and farther away. The 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps exploded at full power, and with the help of various inscription arrays, Lu Ming's speed was unbelievably fast. Soon, Lu Ming had already disappeared from the white-haired old man and the other's vision. Damn it! Damn it! The white-haired old man roared like a mad demon. The burly man and the others appeared behind the white-haired old man, one by one. Their faces were extremely gloomy. Sect leader, that kid's inscription Dao is too powerful. He is definitely a true inscription master, a 6th-level true inscription master. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so strong. The burly man said to the white-haired old man, "Like I said, the younger you are, the more you have to go all out. The young geniuses are too strong now. We were careless before and let a kid escape. This time, these 2 young men are even more terrifying." That old man said, "The young man from before is fine. He was injured by you guys and was hit by my 5 poison palm. He is definitely dead. But these 2, they escaped. It is a bit troublesome." The burly man said, "Well, although they escaped, we have already gotten the jade swords. Now, we are only missing the last jade sword. We have to get it quickly and open the Martial Emperor's treasure before the news is leaked. Get the treasures inside and leave here. This time, it is the opportunity for our blood-poisoned sect to rise. There must be no accidents." The white-haired old man said in a deep voice, "Sect leader, although the owner of the last jade sword hasn't said anything, I think he will be here soon. This time, we will definitely get it." The burly man said. Then, everyone returned to the small island and continued to lay out their plans and wait. Lu Ming took Xian Yanqing and flew for hundreds of thousands of miles before landing on a small island. "Lu Ming, are you okay?" Xian Yanqing was extremely worried and looked at Lu Ming with concern. "I'm fine. That finger force was extremely poisonous, but poison is useless against me." Lu Ming smiled and controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline to devour the poison on his arm. After the poison was removed, the wound on his arm began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Half a day later, Lu Ming's arm was completely healed. Whoosh. Chapter 692. This time, it was really dangerous. If it weren't for Lu Ming's rapid progress in the path of inscription, and the fact that he could inscribe powerful inscription formations, and Lu Ming was cautious enough to secretly inscribe inscriptions when he stepped onto the island, they would be in danger this time. Even if Lu Ming risked his life to take out the Thunder Cauldron, and even if Xian Yanqing had some life-saving means facing a fourth-layer spiritual ocean tier cultivator, the gap was too big, and they would most likely die. No matter how powerful the Thunder Cauldron was, with Lu Ming's current cultivation as a peak king, he definitely couldn't kill a fourth-layer spiritual ocean tier cultivator. He might not even be able to kill a third-layer spiritual ocean tier cultivator. Kenfei Ryu, what a pity! Lu Ming sighed softly. The world of martial arts was like this. No matter how talented you were, you would fall if you were careless. In the long river of history, countless geniuses had fallen, and those who could truly rise and walk to the peak were few and far between. Xiaoqing, let's go. Those people want to monopolize it. Hee, how could we let them have it? Let's give them a big gift. Lu Ming sneered. You want to spread the news? Xian Yanqing said, That's right. Since they want to monopolize it, we can only muddy the waters. Only by doing so can we fish in troubled waters. Lu Ming sneered. That's exactly what I want. It's best if stronger cultivators appear, and kill them. Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. Let's go to Wine Moon Island first. This island is bigger than Golden Sand Island. Let's spread the news there. I believe it will soon spread throughout the chaotic astral ocean. Lu Ming took out the map and looked at it. Then, the two of them rose into the air and flew towards Wind Moon Island. There's someone down there. After flying for a short while, Xian Yanqing suddenly pointed at the sea surface and said. Lu Ming looked over, and indeed saw a figure floating on the sea surface. There was a golden light on his body, and the fish around didn't dare to get close. That looks like Kenfei Ryu. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The figure on the surface of the sea indeed resembled Kenfei Ryu. The two landed on the surface of the sea. Lu Ming sent out his quintessence and pulled them up. When he looked, he was slightly shocked. This person was actually Kenfei Ryu. Why is Kenfei Ryu here? Lu Ming originally thought that Kenfei Ryu had been killed by that group of people. He's still breathing. He's not dead, but he's deeply poisoned. Xian Yanqing frowned. Let's go back to that island and save people first. Lu Ming said, and the two of them returned to the small island. Kenfei Ryu's body emitted a golden light. It was probably the work of the Golden Sword Pagoda's protector. However, it did not prevent Lu Ming from saving people. He controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and devoured all the poison in Kenfei Ryu's body. This poison was very powerful. If he had been a few days later, Kenfei Ryu would have died. Once the poison was gone, Kenfei Ryu's quintessence circulated automatically and started to heal. 2 hours later, Kenfei Ryu opened his eyes. Brother Lu, it's you. Kenfei Ryu was extremely shocked when he saw Lu Ming and the others. Brother Jian, you're heavily injured. You should heal first. Lu Ming said. No, wait a moment. Brother Lu, Miss Xie, you must not go to the Martial Monarch's treasury. The blood poison sect set up a trap there to seize all the jade swords. The others are all dead. Kenfei Ryu cried out anxiously. Brother Jian, it's too late. We've already been there. Lu Ming smiled faintly. What? You've been there? Then you... Kenfei Ryu was stunned. They had been there, but Lu Ming and the others were fine? I gave my jade swords to them, but we seized the opportunity and escaped. Lu Ming said, You gave your jade swords to them? Sai, what a pity. The martial monarch's treasury is going to fall into the hands of those despicable people. Kenfei Ryu sighed, feeling somewhat unwilling. They want to monopolize the martial monarch's treasury? How can it be that easy? They won't be able to gather the last jade sword. Lu Ming smiled faintly. A jade sword appeared in Xian Yanqing's hand. Kenfei Ryu was stunned, then became overjoyed. Haha, man proposes, God disposes. So Brother Lu and Miss Xie each have one jade sword. I wonder what the blood poison sects people will think when they find out. All right, Brother Lu, what are you going to do next? Of course we're going to muddy the waters. The muddier the better. Brother Jian, are you interested in joining us? Lu Ming smiled. Of course, of course. Kenfei Ryu said excitedly. Right at this moment, the jade sword in Xian Yanqing's hand emitted a bright light. Do you want to know their reaction? You'll find out soon. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. He took the jade sword in Xian Yanqing's hand and inserted his true yuan into it. Immediately, a rough voice sounded. Hello, friend. The 8 of us are here. Only one person is left. Friend, where are you? It was the burly man's voice. Lu Ming and the other 2 did not say anything. That's right. Friend, you're the only one left. As long as you come over, we can open the martial monarch's treasury and take out the treasures inside. If we delay any longer, I'm afraid unforeseen events will happen. The one who spoke was the timid girl's voice. Cough, cough. Lu Ming coughed dryly a few times. The other side immediately became excited. The burly man said, Brother, where are you? As long as you come over, we can immediately open the martial monarch's treasury. This friend finally spoke. May I ask, where are you? Are you in the chaotic astral ocean? The timid girl's voice sounded again. Everyone, how have you been? At this moment, Lu Ming spoke. Then, the jade sword immediately quieted down. There was no sound at all. After a long while, the rough voice sounded. It's you? Yes, it's me. You guys are so forgetful. Lu Ming said with a smile. You actually have 2 jade swords? How is that possible? The rough voice was filled with disbelief. Brother, what do you want? The timid girl's voice sounded. Your blood poison sect is powerful. The few of us can't compete with you. Therefore, I plan to bring all the brothers and sisters in the chaotic astral ocean to share the martial monarch's treasury. What do you think? This idea is good, right? Lu Ming said with a smile. You want to spread the news? No, you can't do that. Damn it, you can't do that. The rough voice roared. Idiot, Lu Ming said. Then, the rough voice's heavy breathing could be heard. It was obviously angry. Little brother, let's talk nicely. I promise you that as long as you come over, we won't touch you. After we enter the martial monarch's treasury, we'll divide the keys equally. What do you think? At this moment, an old voice sounded. It was the voice of the blood poison sect's leader. Not interested, Lu Ming said. Little brother, what do you want? The blood poison sect's leader asked. That's easy. I want your heads. Lu Ming sneered. Little brother, I advise you not to go too far. Otherwise, it won't do you any good. Chapter 693. Old man, has your head been bitten by a dog? You're still threatening me. I'm going to go all out. What can you do about it? All right, let's get to work. I believe that the news of the Martial Emperor's treasure will soon spread throughout the Star Sea. Lu Ming smiled. No, boy, don't you dare. I'll kill you. I promise, the sect leader of the blood poison sect roared. But at this moment, Lu Ming stopped injecting true qi, and his voice disappeared. I really want to see the expressions of the people of the blood poison sect. Kenfei Ryu smiled, feeling very comfortable. Their expressions will definitely be very interesting. Lu Ming said, Yes, the expressions of the people of the blood poison sect would be very interesting. Damn it, that bastard. The next time I see him, I'll skin him and pull out his tendons. The burly man roared again and again. His eyes were wide open as if they were about to spit fire. I didn't expect that guy to have 2 jade swords. Damn it! The delicate woman also gritted her teeth, and her eyes were full of resentment. The others were about the same. Their faces were livid, and the veins on their faces were throbbing. The feeling of having nowhere to vent their anger was too uncomfortable. They were so angry that they were about to vomit blood. They were so close to success, but all their efforts were in vain. The next time we meet him, he'll definitely die. The sect leader of the blood poison sect gritted his teeth. Sect leader, what should we do now? Someone asked. 9 keys. Without 1 key, we can't open the Martial Emperor's treasure. We can only wait. The sect leader said helplessly. A day later, Kenfei Ryu recovered from his injuries. They went to the Wind Moon Island together. The Wind Moon Island was twice as big as the Golden Sand Island. It was very prosperous and crowded. It was said that there were even experts at the 4th level of the spiritual sea realm here. After the 3 entered the city, they bought a lot of paper and wrote the news of the Martial Emperor's treasure and the specific address on the paper. At night, they spread the paper everywhere. As expected, the whole Wind Moon Island was shocked the next day. Lu Ming and the other 2 had spread too much paper. It was impossible to hide it even if they wanted to. Soon, the news spread all over the Wind Moon Island. Countless people were discussing this topic. In a restaurant, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Kenfei Ryu were eating and drinking while listening to news from nearby. You should have heard the news about the Martial Emperor's treasure, right? Nearby, the voices of other tables could be heard. Of course I did. Everyone in the Wind Moon Island knows about it now. I wonder if the Martial Emperor's treasure is real or not. If it is real, why would someone spread the news everywhere? Could it be a prank? I don't know. An emperor's treasure. An emperor. In the entire Eastern continent, there are only a few emperors. Is there really an emperor's treasure? It's a little mysterious. No matter what, the martial dominator's treasure is too shocking. Even if there's a 1 in 10,000 chance that it's real, I still have to take a look. If it's real, even the slightest benefit from it would be endless. That's right. I'm just afraid that it's real. Hearing the voices from nearby, Lu Ming and the other 2 looked at each other and smiled. With such a way of spreading the news, many people would definitely doubt its authenticity. However, the Martial Emperor's treasure was too shocking and too tempting. Even if they suspected that it was fake, most people would not be able to resist the temptation and would go take a look. This was the effect they wanted. In the next few days, the news spread further and further. Some people had even set off. Lu Ming and the other 2 hid in the Wind Moon Island and cultivated with all their might. If it was really the Martial Emperor's treasure, there would definitely be a fierce fight after it was opened. Naturally, the stronger they were, the better. In a mountain range, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were fighting with all their might. Now, Xian Yanqing had successfully merged 2 wills. Now, the main thing was to help Lu Ming merge the Earth Force and the other 3 wills. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days had passed. After 7 days of hard cultivation, Lu Ming finally merged the Earth Force into the 3 wills. He had successfully merged 3 wills and 1 force. In a guest room of a restaurant, Lu Ming entered the Temple of Paragon and sat cross-legged. There was a pile of esoteric crystals in front of him. There were 22 middle-grade fire attribute esoteric crystals. Lu Ming planned to use the profound crystals to break through to the 2nd level of the state of heaven and earth. If his state could break through to the 2nd level, his battle prowess would definitely increase greatly. He picked up a piece of profound crystal and crushed it. Next to the tree of enlightenment, Lu Ming began to cultivate. Before long, Lu Ming crushed another piece of middle-grade fire attribute profound crystal. Just like that, Lu Ming crushed a total of 12 medium-grade fire profound crystals. Then, Lu Ming stopped. Just a little bit more, but just a little bit more. I still can't break through, Lu Ming muttered. Right now, his fire intent was just a little bit away from the second level, not even half a step. However, it was just a little bit, and he couldn't break through. It seems that the second level concept of heaven and earth is indeed different from the first level concept of heaven and earth. It's not something that can be continuously improved by simply relying on profound crystals. It also needs to rely on comprehension to break through the bottleneck, and then combine it with profound crystals to continuously improve. Lu Ming pondered. It was obvious that the fire intent had reached a bottleneck. Lu Ming didn't continue to break through to the fire intent. Instead, he took out a medium-grade wind profound crystal and started to break through to the wind intent. Just like the fire intent, after refining a dozen medium-grade wind profound crystals, his wind intent also reached the peak of the first level. It was just a little bit away from the second level, but it was still stuck. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled bitterly. It was very difficult to break through to the second level of the state of heaven and earth. No wonder there were so many peak kings, but so few Sea of Soul Realm experts. Taking the Tianxian region's Tianxian branch palace as an example, all the elders, traveling elders, and those in seclusion, there were at least 50 peak king level experts, or even more. However, there were only 2 Sea of Soul Realm experts, Sheng Tsang and Mu Tian. Golden Sand Island had sent out more than 500 peak kings to fight against the sea beasts. Moreover, many of them died on the Fate battle platform. However, how many Sea of Soul Realm experts were there? As long as one's talent wasn't bad and had enough resources, it wasn't hard to reach the peak king level with time. Some people could reach the peak king level after cultivating for a few hundred years. However, many people would be stuck at the peak king level, unable to break through for the rest of their lives. One could imagine how difficult it was to break through to the spiritual sea realm. At this time, Lu Ming stopped cultivating. It was about time for them to leave. After a while, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Kenfei Ryu flew toward the Martial Emperor's treasure island. A few days later, they arrived at the island. There was a sea of people, truly a sea of people. It was densely packed, and at a glance, it was all human figures. There were too many, at least a few 100,000, or even close to 1 million. And this was only the people who had rushed over from the chaotic astral ocean. The people from the other ocean regions hadn't arrived yet. The 3 of them squeezed their way through the crowd. Chapter 694. Damn, is there really a Martial Emperor's treasure? Why hasn't it been opened yet? I heard that a total of 9 keys are needed to open it. The blood poison sect has 8, and the last one is in the hands of a young man. That young man hasn't come yet. Some people speculate that the news was released by that young man. He should be here soon. Let's wait a little longer. Sounds of discussion came from all around. With great difficulty, they squeezed to the front. Countless people surrounded the island in the air. Lu Ming and the others squeezed to the front and saw the people of the blood poison sect standing together with ashen faces. There were a dozen people around them, and each of them had an extremely powerful aura. They were all experts in the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Among them, there were even experts stronger than the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Ha! Everyone of the blood poison sect. How have you been? Lu Ming squeezed to the front and laughed loudly. The people of the blood-poisoned sect looked over. "Little bastard, you finally showed yourself. You're courting death. Kill that little bastard." When the people of the blood-poisoned sect saw Lu Ming, their eyes burned with flames as they stared at Lu Ming, their killing intent incomparably dense. Lu Ming took a few steps back and squeezed into the crowd, saying, "What? You want to fight? There are so many experts here. Let's see how you'll kill them." The people of the blood-poisoned sect roared furiously, but there was nothing they could do. There were too many people here, and they were all experts. With Lu Ming in the crowd, how could they fight? Once they fought, they would implicate others and incur the wrath of the crowd. They would be the ones to die. They could only glare at Lu Ming, wishing they could skin him alive and pull out his tendons. The martial emperor's treasure was originally going to fall into the hands of the blood-poisoned sect. They were about to see the hope of the blood-poisoned sect's rapid rise, but now there were so many people, and a dozen of them were in the fourth layer of the spiritual ocean tier. There were even stronger experts. Now that the martial emperor's treasure was opened, they could at most drink a mouthful of soup. Whether they could drink this soup or not was still a problem. All of this was caused by Lu Ming. It was all caused by Lu Ming. How could they not hate him? As for the fact that they were the ones who made the first move and wanted to monopolize the martial monarch's treasure, they did not even think about it. In their opinion, that was what they should do, and the others should fulfill their wish. The others also looked at Lu Ming. Could it be that the last key was in Lu Ming's hands? Lu Ming smiled as a jade sword appeared in his hand. With a swing of his hand, the jade sword flew towards a green-robed old man. "Senior, I'll give this key to you," Lu Ming said. The green-robed old man's aura was unfathomable, even stronger than the blood-poisoned sect's sect master. The green-robed elder stretched out his hand and caught the jade sword. A smile appeared on his face as he said, "Not bad, little guy." Then he looked at the blood-poisoned sect and said, "Take out your keys and open the martial emperor's treasury together." Damn it! The blood-poison sect master roared in his heart. He was extremely unwilling. But so what if he was unwilling? Today, he could only obediently take out his keys and open the martial emperor's treasury. If they did not take out their keys, they would die. 8 jade swords appeared in the hands of the blood-poison sect. Buzz. When the 9 jade swords appeared at the same time, they moved and emitted a slight tremor. Complex runes appeared on the surface of the 9 swords. What mysterious inscriptions! What a brilliant inscription formation! Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Currently, his inscription Tao was quite good, so his vision was naturally different. He could see that the inscription formation on the 9 jade swords was extremely brilliant and could even be said to be mysterious. Buzz. At this moment, the 9 sword-like stone pillars on the island began to vibrate. Inscriptions appeared on them, resonating with the 9 jade swords. Whoosh, whoosh. Following this, the 9 jade swords separated from the hands of the crowd and flew towards the 9 stone pillars. Each jade sword corresponded to a stone pillar. As the light flickered, the 9 jade swords flew into the 9 stone pillars and disappeared. At this moment, the 9 stone pillars shone brightly. 9 light pillars soared into the sky like 9 divine swords. A frightening scene appeared. The sky above the island was originally filled with people. Now, as the 9 sword lights rushed towards them, those people exploded and turned into dust. They didn't even have time to scream. Retreat! Retreat! Terrified screams rang out as countless people frantically retreated. Lu Ming and the others were not directly above the light pillars, so they had avoided the disaster. At this moment, they were also frantically retreating. It was too terrifying. At least 10,000 people had died in that attack. There were even Sea of Soul Realm experts among them. However, under the light pillars, they couldn't resist at all. Some people's eyes lit up. It seemed like it really was the Martial Emperor's treasury. Even if it wasn't, it was still no small matter. Boom! The 9 light pillars converged into one in the sky, and its power was even stronger. Rumble! At this moment, the island shook violently. Then, everyone saw that the island had split into 2 halves. Moreover, the 2 halves of the island were dozens of miles apart. In the middle of the island, a whirlpool appeared. Endless seawater spun and turned into a huge whirlpool. No one knew where the center of the whirlpool led to. Rumble! The whirlpool spun and rumbled. Its power was shocking. Could it be that the Martial Emperor's treasury was under this whirlpool? Everyone hesitated. For a moment, no one dared to go down first. After a while, someone finally couldn't bear it anymore. A white-haired old man stepped out and said, "Since I don't have much time left, I might as well take the risk." This old man was a peak king. If he couldn't break through to the spiritual ocean realm, he would die of old age. The Martial Emperor's treasury was an opportunity for him. After reaching the spiritual ocean realm, one's lifespan would increase by another 1,000 years. He rushed into the whirlpool and followed it down, disappearing in the blink of an eye. No problem, no problem. Many people's eyes lit up. Go! Then, another group of people rushed down. Ah! This time, someone screamed as his body was torn apart, dying miserably in the whirlpool. However, some people rushed in. The person who died was a Martial Ancestor Realm Cultivator. Martial King Realm Cultivator. It's fine. Martial King Realm Cultivators can withstand the power of the whirlpool. That's right. Martial Ancestor Realm Ents want to get a share of the Martial Emperor's treasury. What a dream. Go. Immediately, more people rushed in. They were all Martial King Realm Cultivators, and above. Sure enough, they were fine. One by one, they disappeared in the center of the whirlpool. Thus, more and more people flew down. After a while, the spiritual ocean realm cultivators couldn't bear it anymore and flew toward the whirlpool. The people of the blood poison sect looked coldly at Lu Ming and flew into the whirlpool, disappearing. As for the Martial Ancestor Realm cultivators, they were extremely unwilling, but there was nothing they could do. There were even some Martial Ancestor Realm cultivators who didn't believe it and rushed in, dying miserably. Chapter 695. Brother Jian, do you want to go? Lu Ming looked at Kenfei Ryu. Go, of course, the Martial Emperor's treasure. Regardless of whether it's real or not, we can't miss it. Kenfei Ryu's eyes were filled with determination. Geniuses were called geniuses not only because of their talent and perseverance, but also because they had to grasp the opportunity. If they did not dare to grasp the opportunity in front of them, they would not be called geniuses. All right, let's go together. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Kenfei Ryu charged into the whirlpool together. As soon as they entered the whirlpool, Lu Ming felt a strong tearing force from the surrounding seawater acting on his body. However, this force was only a threat to Martial Ancestor Realm cultivators. It was nothing to them. The 3 of them followed the whirlpool and continued to descend. Very soon, they reached the bottom of the sea. However, they did not stop. There seemed to be a huge cave at the bottom of the sea. It was pitch black inside the cave. There was an extremely powerful suction force from inside, pulling Lu Ming and the group down. Lu Ming realized that he was insignificant under the suction force, unable to resist at all. In the next moment, he, Xian Yanqing, and the others disappeared from the cave. It was pitch black all around. There was no sound and no movement. Lu Ming only felt that his body kept on descending. He did not know where he was going to land. Could it be that the Martial Emperor's treasure is deep underground? Lu Ming thought to himself. After descending for an unknown period of time, Lu Ming suddenly felt the world spinning around him, as if he had taken the interzone teleportation formation. In the next moment, he realized that he was in midair, and his body was descending rapidly. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly circulated his true yuan. He realized that the circulation of his true yuan was much more difficult than before, as if there was a strong resistance. Even flying had become much more strenuous than before. Furthermore, the speed of flying had also become much slower. Lu Ming controlled his body and hovered in the air, carefully sizing it up. There was no moon or sun in the sky, but there seemed to be many stars high up in the sky. However, these stars were all crimson in color and emitted crimson light. This was where the light source was located. Below them was an endless land. Where is this? Is it in another large region or deep underground? Lu Ming frowned. Previously, he had felt that he was falling. Xiao Qing, Kenfei Ryu, they're gone. Lu Ming muttered. With a thought, Dandin appeared on his shoulder. Before entering, Lu Ming had already stuffed Dandin into the Supreme Divine Palace. Dandin, do you know where we are? Lu Ming asked. Dandin looked around and pondered for a moment. Then it shook its head and said, I don't remember this place. It's so strange. It doesn't seem like we're on the ground. Dandin didn't know, so Lu Ming didn't ask any more questions. After looking around for a while, he landed on the ground. After landing on the ground, Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This piece of land was actually a graveyard. As far as the eye could see, there were gigantic tombs everywhere, one after another, forming a vast expanse. There's someone. Lu Ming saw a figure flash in front of him. It was a peak-level king. Lu Ming moved and followed him. Slowly, he found that there were more and more people in front of him. In the end, he found that there were about 1,000 people scattered in front of him. Everyone, do any of you know where this place is? Someone asked. I don't know. Didn't they say that it was the Martial Emperor's treasure? Why would it be here? There are tombs everywhere. Where would the treasure be? Maybe the Martial Emperor's treasure is somewhere else? We need to find it ourselves. That's true. If it's really the Martial Emperor's treasure, how could it be so easy to get it? Everyone spoke one after another, expressing their own opinions. Little bastard. Suddenly, there was a loud roar. Lu Ming felt a cold, murderous intent shrouding him. When he turned around, he saw a burly man glaring at Lu Ming with murderous intent in his eyes, as if he wanted to eat him alive. It was the burly man from the blood poison sect, Zhong Mo. This person was an expert in the third layer of the spiritual sea realm. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He didn't expect to meet the burly man as soon as he entered this place. The burly man revealed a ferocious smile. A powerful aura spread out from his body like a vast ocean, enveloping Lu Ming. The people nearby couldn't help but move aside. An expert in the third layer of the spiritual sea realm was extremely terrifying. They were afraid of being affected. Little bastard, this is your fate. You're destined to die in my hands. Let's see how you escape today. Dong! Dong! Before he finished speaking, the burly man rushed towards Lu Ming with large strides, like a wild beast trampling the earth. Lu Ming retreated rapidly. With every step, his foot would step on the ground, and a light flashed. Xiao! Xiao! When the burly man rushed over, lines of inscriptions appeared on the ground, forming a long spear that pierced towards the burly man. The long spear pierced through the air with terrifying power. Even a spiritual sea realm expert would be killed if careless. However, the burly man punched out, shattering the spear light. His figure didn't stop at all as he charged towards Lu Ming. Little bastard, although your Tao of inscription is strong, How can a formation set up in a hurry do anything to me? Today I'll kill you. Bang! Bang! The burly man shouted and punched out with both fists. Two mighty fist lights blasted towards Lu Ming. Heaven and earth shook violently as if the space was about to be pierced through. A terrifying pressure pressed down on Lu Ming's body, and Lu Ming's muscles tightened. Pung! Lu Ming stepped on the ground, and inscriptions appeared, forming two shields in front of him. His figure retreated rapidly. With two explosions, the two shields were shattered. The fist power didn't stop as it blasted towards Lu Ming. The third layer of the spiritual sea realm at his peak was too strong. Lu Ming couldn't fight against him at all. Even if Lu Ming's Tao of Inscription was extremely powerful, he was still only at the 5th level after all. Go! Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps and dodged the fist lights. He planned to continue using the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps and leave this place. Xiao! Xiao! Suddenly, a sharp sound broke through the air. Endless arrows shot towards them from all directions, covering the sky and the earth. Everyone was shrouded in it. Oh no, there's someone here. Many people's faces changed as they burst out their cultivation to block the arrows from all directions. Bang! Bang! Just as they bombarded the arrows and wanted to knock them away, the arrows suddenly exploded. The power was extremely terrifying. Many low-level king-level cultivators were directly killed by the explosion, and screams were endless. Around Lu Ming, there were also dozens of arrows that exploded, making him retreat a few steps. As for the burly man, it was unknown whether he was too strong or just unlucky, but there were hundreds of arrows that shot towards him. Although they didn't hurt him, they made him look quite embarrassed. Shoot! Chapter 696. What's that? Lu Ming's pupils shrank. He saw a talisman on each arrow. The talisman was less than the size of a palm and was attached to the arrow. As soon as the arrow was shot, the talisman on the arrow would explode, releasing a huge amount of energy. The explosion of the arrow was caused by the talisman. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming's figure flashed rapidly. He tried his best to avoid this kind of arrow and avoid coming into contact with it. Boom! Boom! Intense explosions rang out nonstop. Following the explosions were miserable screams. Many more people were killed by the explosions. However, most of the people who were killed were below the 4th layer Martial King realm. Those above the 4th layer Martial King realm resisted the power of the explosion with their wills and powerful true chi. Whoosh! Whoosh! However, the arrows kept coming. The sky was filled with the sound of the air being pierced. Oh no! Lu Ming's countenance suddenly changed. He realized that a few arrows were terrifyingly fast. They were a few times faster than the other arrows. In an instant, they were right in front of him. His figure flashed, but there was still an arrow that he did not manage to evade. It was shot in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming's vital essence erupted, forming a vital essence shield. With a bang, the arrow exploded. What a powerful arrow! Its penetrative power is amazing. Lu Ming's expression changed. Although he had shattered the arrow, it was because of his profound cultivation and abundant true chi that he was fine. However, the others were not so lucky. More cries of agony were heard. Many 4th layer Martial King realm and above warriors had their true chi shields penetrated, and their bodies pierced by the arrows, dying a violent death. Even the 7th layer Martial King realm and above warriors were able to block the arrows, but it consumed a lot of true chi. Talisman again. Lu Ming found that the arrows with strong penetrative power also had a talisman on them. The talisman was blue in color, which could greatly increase the speed and penetrative power. Whoosh! Whoosh! Another wave of attacks came before the first one. Just now, the burly man's battle prowess was so strong that he was probably the focus of attention. Arrows were constantly being shot at him, so he had no time to chase after Lu Ming. Charge! Charge in one direction. Otherwise, we're all going to die. Someone shouted, Charge! Charge in one direction. Everyone joined forces and charged in the same direction. Just a moment ago, there were still over 1,000 of them. But now, there were only 300 to 400 of them left. More than half of them had been killed. Hundreds of people charged in one direction and broke through the barrage of arrows. Rumble! A rumbling sound came from the ground, and a howl came from the front. It was the howl of a wolf. Smoke and dust filled the air. Giant waves appeared one after another, rushing towards them. There was a figure sitting on each of the giant wolves. These figures were dressed differently from them. There were both men and women. The women were draped in animal skins, revealing their slender legs. The men were bare-chested, with animal skins covering their lower bodies. Their skin was bronze, and they carried longbows on their backs. Kill! These people trespassed into the forbidden area. Kill them all! A muscular man roared. The giant wolves howled and stomped on the ground, charging toward Lu Ming's group. Lu Ming's group also unleashed their attacks, including sword intents and saber glows, slashing at the giant waves. Clang! Clang! Their attacks landed on the giant wolves, producing the sound of metal clashing. The giant wolves were not afraid of the attacks. They charged forward with their claws as sharp as blades. A seventh-layer Martial Emperor Realm Cultivator's protective chi was torn apart by the wolf claws. Following this, his body was also torn apart. It was not only one person who ended up like this, but many of them. Puppets, they're puppets. Lu Ming swung his spear and knocked a giant wolf flying. His eyes widened slightly. These giant wolves were not made of flesh and blood. They were puppets made of various metals. Their bodies were as tough as diamond, indestructible. Most importantly, there were too many puppets. There were at least 1,000 of them, and this was only one direction. There were more in the other directions. Lu Ming swung his spear, knocking the giant waves away. Some of the giant wolves even exploded. Kill that brat! A burly man was riding on an exceptionally huge wolf. He charged toward Lu Ming, and his huge wolf claws grabbed Lu Ming directly. Lu Ming swung his spear. With a loud bang, the giant wolf was knocked back. However, Lu Ming's body also trembled, and he took a few steps back. The giant wolf puppet was equivalent to the Sea of Spirit Realm. Kill! After being knocked back, the muscular man controlled the giant wolf puppet and charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming swung his spear and knocked the giant wolf back. He stopped fighting and rushed over. The muscular man from the blood poison sect was the most miserable. He was besieged by 3 terrifying giant wolves. One of the 3 giant wolf puppets was equivalent to the 3rd layer of the Sea of Spirit Realm, and the other 2 were equivalent to the peak of the 2nd layer. They were indestructible and suppressed the muscular man. Rumble! In the other 4 directions, the ground also rumbled violently. Wolf howls were heard as countless puppet armies charged toward them. Charge! Charge! Many martial artists charged with no regard for their own safety. They used all their trump cards. The situation was too dangerous. If they didn't charge out, they would be surrounded by the puppet armies from the other 3 directions. Only death awaited them. Trespassers will be killed without mercy. Kill! Shouts shook the sky as the attacks were like a tide. Lu Ming held his spear and charged. Along the way, he knocked back several Sea of Spirit Realm puppets. He kept charging forward. Brat die. A figure at least 2 meters tall slashed at him with a saber. The saber cut through the air and made a terrifying sonic boom. Lu Ming blocked with the infinite dragon spear. A terrifying power surged, and Lu Ming's body floated back. A puppet equivalent to the second layer of the Sea of Spirit realm. Moreover, it's in human form. Lu Ming's eyes turned serious. Then, he moved and charged to the right. The human-shaped puppet was metallic in color. Its eyes were extremely cold. As it stepped on the ground, a huge pit appeared on the ground. It charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped on the ground, and lines of inscriptions appeared. At the same time, he waved his hands, and lines of inscriptions disappeared into the ground. Inscription Master. The human-shaped puppet actually spoke human language, which was a bit surprising. Trap. Lu Ming waved his hands, and the inscriptions on the ground spread and turned into a huge net covering the human-shaped puppet. The human-shaped puppet slashed with its saber, but it couldn't break the net for a while. Lu Ming rushed into the sky and flew into the distance. Let's go through the air. The others followed suit, wanting to escape through the air. But what made them despair was that the giant wolf puppets extended their wings from both sides and could also fly into the sky to chase after them. This was a bloody battle. No one cared about the others, and each of them tried their best to charge out. Lu Ming didn't know how many giant wolf puppets he defeated before he rushed out of the graveyard and into a forest. Chapter 697. Lu Ming landed in a forest. The trees here were extremely strange. They were dark red and completely different from the trees Lu Ming had seen before. Without thinking too much, Lu Ming took out a pile of supreme grade spirit crystals. After swallowing them, he began to recover his Shen Yuan. Half an hour later, Lu Ming's Shen Yuan had basically recovered. Suddenly, his expression changed as he looked at the sky. More than 20 people flew over and landed. They were all people from the chaotic astral ocean, like him. These people were basically peak kings who had rushed out of the encirclement and arrived here. However, each of them had suffered different degrees of injuries. Naturally, they also saw Lu Ming. Seeing Lu Ming dressed like them, they let out a sigh of relief. A few of them stood guard while the others healed. Lu Ming didn't speak. He sat cross-legged, not far away, but his mind was constantly thinking. What was this place? And who were those people who attacked them? Looking at their clothes, they seemed to be very ancient. They were actually wearing beast skins. In the divine wilderness continent, Lu Ming heard that only some tribes in extremely remote areas wore beast skins. The key was that these people could actually refine runes and make puppets. This was strange. Runes and puppets were all branches of the path of inscription. Just like inscription talismans, only true inscription masters could refine them. These humans who were dressed like primitive tribes actually had many true inscription masters. After 1 or 2 hours, the 20 people had more or less recovered. Everyone, do you know where those people came from? And what is this place? Lu Ming asked. During the battle just now, I think I heard someone call us people from the outside world. Is this place really underground? A rather elegant, middle-aged man pondered and said, Underground? It can't really be underground, right? There's actually a world underground. Someone was very surprised. The others didn't say anything, but they knew in their hearts that there was most likely no mistake. When they came in, they kept going down and didn't know how far they had fallen. If it's really underground, then it's troublesome. How do we get out? Someone asked worriedly. Since we came in through the entrance of the Martial Emperor's treasure, then we'll definitely be able to leave. But first, we need to figure out the situation here. Lu Ming said, That's right, this little brother is right. The middle-aged man nodded. At this time, Lu Ming's expression changed. He looked up at the sky, and then his face changed. He said, "Not good. Those people are chasing after us. Let's go." Finished speaking, Lu Ming rose into the air and flew off into the distance. The others were slightly taken aback. They turned their heads and saw over 100 giant wolves spreading their wings and flying toward them at an extremely fast speed. "Let's go, let's go." Their expressions changed drastically. They all rose into the air and flew forward. Lu Ming's speed was very fast. He shook off those giant wolf puppets and landed 10,000 miles away. This time, he landed in a valley. As for the scholarly middle-aged man and the others, they had long since separated from him. However, a few hours later, the giant wolf puppet actually chased after him again. What's going on? How can those people know where I am and accurately find me every time? Lu Ming frowned and pondered. He flew forward rapidly. Soon, he shook off those giant wolves and landed in a mountain forest. Lu Ming carefully looked around. Suddenly, his eyes flickered. He drew in the air with his hand, and lines of inscriptions appeared and landed on an ancient tree. Lines of inscriptions appeared on the ancient tree, forming a mysterious inscription formation. Sure enough, there are formations everywhere in this mountain forest. These formations should be used for surveillance. They can detect the aura of nearby people and lock onto their position. Lu Ming nodded. He had an answer in his heart. "In that case, I'll break these formations." Lu Ming waved his hands. The inscription formation on the ancient tree trembled and collapsed, disappearing. Then Lu Ming wandered around the area. Sure enough, he found many such inscription formations and broke them all. After breaking the formations in this area, Lu Ming rested in this area. Sure enough, after a long time, no one chased after him. Where should I go next? Could it be that the martial emperor's treasure is only used to deceive people and has no other purpose? Lu Ming was very puzzled. He felt that this matter was very strange, because the entrance to the chaotic astral ocean was definitely set up by someone outside. There must be a purpose. Perhaps the real martial emperor's treasure was hidden in this underground world. I'd better find a way to understand the distribution of the underground world. It's best if I can blend in. Then I'll know what to do next. Lu Ming pondered. While Lu Ming was guessing, there was a huge ancient city more than 10,000 miles away. This ancient city was basically built with stones. The city walls were made of stones, and the buildings in the city were also made of stones. In the middle of the ancient city, there was a huge stone hall. At this moment, a group of people was discussing something. Most of them were old men wearing animal skins. At this moment, a burly man was reporting to a few old men. Someone from the outside world. Could it really be someone from the outside world? A chubby old man muttered to himself, frowning and pondering. Could it be that the ancient legend is true? If someone from the outside world comes, there must be a son of destiny who can revive the ancient ancestor and teach the major tribes to inscribe the great Tao again. Legends don't come out of nowhere. All the great tribes have such legends. Moreover, if a tribe can find the child of heaven's will and revive the ancient ancestor, that tribe will receive the ancient ancestor's favor and be taught a supreme art. One by one, the old men expressed their opinions. This is a chance for our Sky Wolf tribe. Pass down the order. We can only capture the people from the outside world alive. If it's not necessary, we can't kill them. Our Sky Wolf tribe must capture more people from the outside world than the other tribes. One of the oldest elders spoke. "Yes, elder." The burly man accepted the order and left. The son of destiny must be in the hands of our Sky Wolf tribe. The Sky Wolf tribe elder's turbid eyes emitted a bright light that was more dazzling than the stars. After resting for a while, Lu Ming continued to move. He randomly chose a direction and continued to fly. Boom, boom. After Lu Ming flew for a few thousand miles, two fists suddenly came at him from below. The power was terrifying. Zhong Mo. Lu Ming's pupils shrank. He took a few steps and used the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps. Heaven and earth roared as he blocked the two fists. However, Lu Ming's body was sent flying by the huge force. Puff! Lu Ming flew for 1,000 meters before stopping. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and his legs were trembling. Die! The burly man from the blood-poisoned sect followed closely behind the fists. With a roar, his killing intent surged. He threw 2 more fists at Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming with lightning speed, so that Lu Ming wouldn't have time to escape. Exploding Star Fist. Lu Ming threw out dozens of punches consecutively. Dozens of fist gleams collided in front of him. After this period of cultivation, Lu Ming's exploding star fist had already reached the 6th level. Chapter 698. The 3-colored dragon roared, its roar shaking the sky as it pounced down. However, Zhong Mo was in the 3rd layer of the spiritual sea realm and was too strong. The 2 fist rays shattered all of Lu Ming's exploding star fist, and the 3-colored dragon was scattered. However, it was still blocked for a moment. Just this moment was enough. Lu Ming waved his hands, and instantly dense inscriptions appeared on his body. In an instant, Lu Ming carved 7 inscription formations on himself. Among them, there was an inscription formation for true origin explosion, an inscription formation for increasing speed, an inscription formation for increasing physical strength, an inscription formation for increasing defense. With the addition of the inscription formations, Lu Ming's battle power increased again. Kill. Below, Zhong Mo didn't give up, and his murderous aura was like a tide. Little bastard, I'll see how you carve inscriptions in the air. Zhong Mo sneered, and his fist ray was like a mountain, striking towards Lu Ming. Ordinary inscriptionists couldn't carve inscription formations in the air. Only those who reached the 7th level of inscriptionists, and those who were true inscriptionists, could carve inscription formations in the air and make use of them. This could only be done if one's mental strength was extremely powerful. Lu Ming couldn't do it now. If he carved inscriptions in the air, the inscriptions would soon dissipate. Back on the 7-colored island, the 7-colored spiritual master had carved formations in the air, and his methods were unpredictable. Boom! Lu Ming didn't bother to talk nonsense with him, and his spear smashed down. The huge spear ray was as big as a mountain, and the pressure made the space tremble. This spear was supported by 7 inscription formations by Lu Ming, and it exploded with full power. Even an elite at the peak of the 1st layer of the spiritual sea realm would be smashed to death by this spear. Boom! The spear ray clashed with the fist force, and a huge force exploded. Now, Lu Ming pressed the long spear, and with the force of the recoil, Lu Ming's body flew back a few thousand meters in an instant. He felt the blood in his body churning, and a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. However, he couldn't care about that anymore. He executed the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps and turned into a streak of light flying into the distance. Damn it, don't run! Zhong Mo roared and chased after him. However, the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps was extremely fast, and with the support of the formation, his speed was even faster. Soon, he shook Zhong Mo off. In one breath, Lu Ming flew more than 10,000 miles and landed in a forest. Then, he waved his hands and destroyed all the surveillance arrays in the forest. After Lu Ming devoured some of the spiritual crystals, he stood up and a cold light flashed in his eyes. This guy must die. With a flash of killing intent in his eyes, Lu Ming waved his hands and inscribed an inscription array on the ground. One by one, the inscriptions sank into the ground. It took Lu Ming half an hour to carve the inscriptions before he stopped. Kid, you're vicious enough. You inscribed 36 killing arrays in one breath and added an illusion array to cover it up. Even if that guy is a warrior at the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm, once he steps in here, he must die. Dandan grinned. Isn't it better this way? Lu Ming smiled. Good, of course it's good. Ha, let's go and lure that guy here. I can't wait. Dandan sneered, his eyes shining. Lu Ming flew up and went back the way he came. He didn't hide his aura at all. There were no surveillance inscriptions in the air, so he wasn't afraid of being discovered by the underground humans. After flying for a few thousand miles, a burly figure flew in front of him. It was Zhong Emo, but his clothes were messy, and he looked a little embarrassed. Apparently, he met the underground humans on the way. Little bastard. As soon as he saw Lu Ming, Zhong Mo's eyes turned red, and he chased after Lu Ming with murderous intent. Lu Ming pretended to be shocked and turned to run. Zhong Emo chased after him. In the process of running, Lu Ming pretended to spit out blood again. Zhong Emo sneered and said, "Little bastard, you're injured and can't run away. Rather than die in the hands of the underground people, it's better to let me kill you." Lu Ming did not utter a word. He lowered his head and ran at full speed. The two of them, one in front and one behind, traversed thousands of miles in no time and arrived at the place where Lu Ming had set up the array previously. Lu Ming flew down and started running in the forest. "Ha! You can't sustain your genuine chi. This time, you're dead." Zhong Emo was delighted. He also landed and chased after Lu Ming. But after running for a while, Lu Ming suddenly stopped and turned around with a strange smile on his face. He looked at Zhong Emo. For some reason, when he saw Lu Ming's smile, Zhong Mo's heart suddenly tightened, and he felt a little scared. He couldn't help but stop. "Little bastard, why don't you run? You know you can't run away, right?" Zhong Emo took a deep breath and got rid of that inexplicable feeling. He sneered at Lu Ming. "Run. Why should I run? I'll stay and send you on your way." Lu Ming smiled. Shameless boasting. Zhong Emo shouted coldly. His genuine chi exploded, and his body revealed a terrifying power. Bang! At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly stepped forward. As Lu Ming stepped forward, bright inscriptions appeared where Zhong Emo was standing. The dense inscriptions intertwined with each other and were dazzling and beautiful. However, Zhong Emo wasn't in the mood to appreciate this kind of beauty. His heart sank as he roared and rushed forward crazily. Swoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air was heard as a giant sword was formed. It gave off a terrifying aura as it slashed towards Zhong Emo. Immediately after, gigantic swords appeared from all directions and slashed towards Zhong Emo. And this was only one formation. Then, the inscriptions kept flashing. 36 inscription formations were activated one after another with shocking power. Zhong Mo's heart went cold as he roared, "Little bastard, you actually set up an inscription formation here. You're despicable." "Ha ha, I'm despicable. I'm an inscription master, and inscription masters use inscriptions to fight. Also, you're a martial artist in the 3rd layer of the spiritual sea realm. How dare you say I'm despicable?" Lu Ming sneered. He stepped forward, and endless inscriptions appeared. All kinds of attacks burst out. Flames, storms, ice, sharp swords, battle sabers, all kinds of attacks instantly drowned Zhong Emo. In the formation, Zhong Emo roared again and again, but after a while, his roars disappeared, and only the sound of inscriptions was left. After a while, it quieted down, and the light disappeared. Zhong Mo's figure was no longer in the formation. Zhong Emo had completely disappeared from this world, leaving behind only a storage ring. Lu Ming reached out and sucked the storage ring into his hand. Then he turned around and soared into the sky, leaving this place. His face was calm. The moment Zhong Emo stepped into the formation, he knew that Zhong Emo was dead for sure. The truly terrifying part of an inscription master was that given enough time, he could set up a terrifying formation. With enough time and materials, it was even possible to kill enemies one level higher. Of course, the formation you set up must not be discovered by the enemy. The enemy had to step into the formation for it to work. Chapter 699. Formations that could be cast in an instant were what determined an inscription master's battle prowess. Now, Lu Ming's instant formation could kill a martial artist in the first layer of the spiritual sea realm. So, it was normal that the chain formation Lu Ming spent half an hour to set up could kill Zhong Emo in the third layer of the spiritual sea realm. If he was given more time, he might even be able to lay out an even more powerful formation and slaughter even more powerful sea of soul realm experts. Of course, that was only if the opponent stepped into the formation. Lu Ming flew forward. During this time, he met several underground humans riding giant wolf puppets. Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' sky-stomping steps to get rid of them. Every team has a puppet equivalent to the 4th layer of the spiritual sea realm. Lu Ming was deep in his thoughts. The 4th layer of the spiritual sea realm was much stronger than him. If he met them, he could only run. No, going down blindly like this is not a solution. I have to catch an underground human and find out what is going on in this underground world. Lu Ming pondered. Of course, he couldn't fight recklessly. He still had to rely on inscriptions. Lu Ming chose a place and started to inscribe inscriptions. This time, Lu Ming spent 3 hours to set up 81 level 5 inscription formations. There were also 3 illusion formations that covered up the traces of the inscription formation. Then he rose into the air and randomly chose a direction to fly in. Soon, he saw a team of underground humans riding giant wolf puppets. "Outsider, stop right there." With a loud roar, the team charged directly at Lu Ming. Lu Ming turned and ran. Soon, he arrived at the place where he set up the formation. He landed on the ground and ran forward. The underground humans also landed and chased him on giant wolves. After chasing for a while, Lu Ming suddenly stopped. "Die!" Lu Ming's eyes flashed coldly. With a step, the formation was activated. Endless inscriptions intertwined and enveloped more than 100 underground humans. "Damn it, this person knows inscriptions. We fell into his trap. Break out, break out!" A large man riding on a giant wolf puppet at the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean realm roared repeatedly and charged to the side, but what welcomed him was endless attacks. "Damn it!" The burly man waved his hand, and a scroll appeared in his hand. He unfurled it, and a screen of light enveloped him. Inscription symbol scroll. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. In addition to the Great Khan, there were also some other people who took out inscription scrolls. Some were defensive, some were offensive, and there were all kinds of them. They controlled the puppets and attacked continuously. However, Lu Ming had spent 3 hours to inscribe a total of 81 formations. How could it be so easy to break through? For a moment, the rumbling continued. The underground humans could not rush out at all. These subterranean humans also practice martial arts. However, their martial arts cultivation is much lower than their inscription cultivation. It seems that their martial arts cultivation is just to support their inscription cultivation. Lu Ming observed while controlling the attacks. Among them, there were a few underground humans with high cultivation. Their hands were constantly drawing. They were actually inscribing the inscription formation to fight against Lu Ming's formation. True inscription master. Among these 100 people, Lu Ming saw at least 5 true inscription masters. There were even 2 true inscription masters of 6 apex inscription. Amazing! The subterranean humans are actually so advanced in inscription cultivation. The ratio of true inscription masters is really high. Those puppets are too hard. Let's kill the subterranean humans first. Lu Ming waved his hands and controlled the inscription formation to attack the subterranean humans on the puppets. Screams sounded continuously, and the subterranean humans were constantly killed. Friend from the outer world, we have no evil intentions. We just want to invite you to the Sky Wolf tribe for a chat. Why do you have to be so ruthless? The strongest man yelled. Lu Ming sneered. No evil intentions? There were more than 1,000 of them before. In the end, less than 200 escaped. The rest were all dead. So, no evil intentions? How could Lu Ming believe it? He controlled the formation wholeheartedly. The gorgeous inscriptions shone and turned into a terrifying killing weapon. The subterranean humans were killed one by one. Of course, he controlled more attacks to kill the strongest subterranean human. The power of the 81 formations was horrifying. Soon, only 2 of the 100 subterranean humans were left. The rest were all dead, including the strongest man. Even some of the lower-level puppets were shattered. Only 5 Sea of Soul Realm puppets were left behind. Lu Ming controlled the array and calmed it down. His gaze was cold as he looked at the 2 survivors. The 2 were pale, and their eyes were filled with endless fear. Of course, these 2 were left by Lu Ming on purpose. What should I ask next? What should you answer? Otherwise die. Lu Ming looked at the 2. Don't even think about it. One of them shouted. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. He waved his hand, and a spear light burst out, nailing the man to the ground. Then he looked at the last one and said, "What about you?" I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. Please let me go." The man shouted. This man was a middle-aged man. He was tall and thin, and he looked quite smart. "As long as I'm satisfied with your explanation, I'll let you go," Lu Ming said. He walked to the puppets that were not destroyed. He waved his hand and collected the 5 giant wolf puppets. Then he took the tall and thin man and left. While flying, Lu Ming asked the expert some questions. The lanky man naturally told Lu Ming everything he knew and answered him wholeheartedly. He was afraid that Lu Ming would kill him if he was unsatisfied. One day later, Lu Ming sat cross-legged on a green rock on a mountain peak. As for the tall and thin man, Lu Ming let him go. It didn't matter if he let him go. After all, he didn't know where he was. So, this is really the underground world, and it's divided into so many tribes. Lu Ming murmured, recalling the tall and thin man's words. The underground world was divided into many human tribes. The tribe that Lu Ming encountered before was called the Sky Wolf tribe. It was just one of many tribes. The humans here only knew some superficial martial arts cultivation methods thousands of years ago. But thousands of years ago, the ancient ancestors of the underground humans descended and passed down the path of inscription. The combat strength of the underground humans increased greatly, but after the ancient ancestors passed down some inscription methods, they fell into a deep sleep on the sacred mountain. This deep sleep lasted for thousands of years. After the ancient ancestors fell into a deep sleep, the various tribes went to war. The underground world fell into chaos. Just like that, thousands of years passed. But in the underground world, there was a legend among the tribes. That was one day, people from the outer world would descend. And among the people from the outer world, there would be a destined person who could awaken the ancient ancestors. The tribe that could obtain the destined person would receive a great reward after awakening the ancient ancestors. So, They went everywhere to capture Lu Ming and the others. So that was the case. Lu Ming's mind became clear. Ancient ancestors, sacred mountain, destined person, what's going on with these? Lu Ming frowned and pondered.